7:05, I'm gonna call to order the.
6:05.
I apologize. And I'm gonna call to order the regular council meeting of March 10th for the Village of Franklin Council. Pledge, please. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Dana, roll call, please.
Trustee Hansen,
Here.
trustee Salako,
Here.
trustee Gates,
Here.
trustee Solly,
Here.
president Goldberg,
Here.
trustee Ferris.
Here.
Okay, anybody have any comments on the agenda before we entertain a motion to adopt?
Can we do our reports at the end? I know.
And we,
Well, I'm just,
yeah, we certainly
or if
could.
people are here so they don't have to stay.
Who do we have here?
Or maybe the consent agenda, could we move that before the reports?
All right, well, I mean, then, yeah, I mean, I guess we could do that today. If we want to re-look at a whole restructuring of the agenda, because we seem to be moving things around a lot lately, we definitely should probably do that. Anybody have any problem moving the consent agenda ahead of special report?
No.
All right, anybody else have comments? So,
So I'm not sure what you're proposing.
Oh, just the consent agenda where we're just doing one vote for the civic event permits, move it in front of reports so that
Because we have guests here.
representatives, exactly. And then even the appointments, because I feel like there might be some discussion in the open burning, since like a few of us haven't had that before, maybe that could go up.
Is your point that we've got residents who are
Audience,
here,
yeah.
and then they wait.
An hour, exactly, before their item comes to the front.
all right, I mean, it's kind of how it works, but, I'm kind of fine with moving the consent agenda item ahead, so if anybody's here for those two permits, we could get them out of here, but,
Keep the appointments to the end.
Yeah,
yeah, and,
yeah. Wouldn't hurt them to hear.
yeah, they can hang out for a meeting, get a feel for it. So, if anybody's all right, so you want to make that motion, Angelina,
Sure.
to adopt the agenda with flip-flopping 10 and 11?
Okay. I'll move to change item 10 and item 11, so that way the consent agenda is before special reports.
Okay, can I get a second?
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so we'll make that flop on the agenda. Minutes from our February 10th meeting. Anybody see any comments or corrections?
No, I just want to make sure that we,
Yeah.
so, again, in the previous meeting, we had a couple of changes to the past meetings. I think it was the December 11th meeting in particular, maybe the 12th, oh, and the 12th. So just confirming that those were adopted since they're not reflected here, otherwise, I'm good.
I have, under new business, 11, under B, the, discussion, where it says lack of question, the clerk's salary adjustment, that it was not properly approved. I think the language is inaccurate here. It wasn't improperly approved, it was just not disclosed to council. And it was, raise, it was an adjustment. And I don't think that the points that I made about it exceeding the authorization, being retroactive, that it was concealed, is without notice, wasn't based on performance, and that it was 2 months after previous raise approved by council is captured in this.
Our minutes are definitely not verbatim, they're designed just as an outline. We don't capture the specifics of everyone's comment anywhere on those minutes. But, in regards to the bullet point, if there was a different, way that you would like that phrase, we can make those adjustments, but, I don't wanna set the precedent that we're necessarily verbatim capturing everybody's statement.
We've already digressed to this, but I agree with Angelina. If she's addressing a comment that's being put to her name,
Yep,
and she doesn't believe it properly reflects it, then those are fair changes. I agree that we already moved from verbatim, at one point, several years ago, we were literally almost trying to recapture everything
It
that was
was like a
said.
transcript. yeah.
Correct, and we've moved from that. But if someone isn't comfortable with the way it's reflected, I totally think that Angelina should have the opportunity to get the record to properly reflect what, at least the general census of what she was saying.
Do you have language you would?
yeah, what
prefer?
would you
Yeah, I
like
can send
there?
you.
Okay,
Well, like,
Got it.
SLAC is concerned about the retroactive, unauthorized, salary, raise or whatever, but, also to your point, the bullet, Schubert, clarified that the clerk positions appointed and any significant salary changes should be approved. Like,
Must be
approved, and it's not significant. It's salary changes must be approved by council. I think the record needs to reflect the facts and not use euphemisms, because I think that's how we get into trouble with process and authority and unauthorized actions.
So we could delete the word significant in the fourth bullet and replace should be with must.
Exactly, but that's a
Yeah,
huge thing, yeah.
Do you agree?
I don't have a problem with any of these. My
Yeah.
question is, are these changes that Dana can capture right now when we adopt it this way? Or do we want to have you send comments to her and bring the minutes back at the next meeting?
I prefer her to send me the comments so I make sure I capture them correctly.
What do
Yeah,
you
I mean, if you're
prefer?
talking about really rewriting some of your comments, I
Just
would.
that
Let's-
one bullet.
I'm just gonna, what about, Salaka was concerned about the retroactive, unauthorized, raise
That wasn't
granted?
approved by council.
Okay,
Exactly.
Okay.
Because I don't want them to infer
If
that
that's
it
all it
was.
is, then yeah, then we're good.
I think we're good, I'm comfortable with pending these changes. The bullet point we just discussed and the one where it says that, any significant salary changes, omitting the word significant and changing should to must. If we're good with that, I think we could go ahead and adopt minutes pending those changes, and I have notes on
Okay,
there.
thanks.
As amended.
Yes.
Yeah, as amended. All right, thank you, Angelina. I want to just make one comment, and it goes actually to Abby. Abby, although technically by the rules you have to be absent, I want to tell you how much I do appreciate the fact that you couldn't be here for reasons you couldn't leave the house, but the fact that you still sat here essentially for the whole meeting
Yes.
and didn't lose a beat. I wanted to say that I do appreciate it.
My daughter says you're welcome.
Of course, you want some mommy there.
I appreciate it.
All right, so we have a motion with an amended agenda, and do we have a second?
Oh,
Second.
amended minutes.
Minutes? Add together, I'm looking at the word agenda.
So
So we have a motion by Angelina with comments which Dana and Meg have captured, second by David. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you, Angelina.
Thank you.
Okay. So our social media presentation is next on the agenda. I know that this was requested by trustee
Yep.
Seltzer, as well as I think everybody would like the opportunity to meet our social media representative and help us understand what you're helping us with.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. It's nice to see everyone's lovely faces. I typically we're like the phantoms behind the screens usually in our world. I think you all got the report that we sent over. We pull reports just about monthly for everybody. Sometimes if we're looking at trends, especially with an account like Franklin, where we are kind of catching up on not being a lot of social media engagement for a long time. We'll wait a little while, and then we can track backwards and forwards. But for those of you who I haven't met, I'm Andrea Walker-Leidy. I have been doing PR, social media marketing, communications for 18 some years. I have a small agency in Rochester Hills and a wonderful little team that works with me. It started my career in journalism and kind of evolved from there. So we work with a lot of nonprofits and some small to mid-sized businesses. We've done a ton of work with communities and municipalities, downtowns, DDAs, main streets, things like that. So I've been working in Oakland County for years and years and absolutely love it. I've chose to keep my business here because I really do just love our communities. So when Susan and the team approached me last year about the fun little project that we worked on last year for fundraiser with the barn. That was really kind of a kickoff of us being able to see the benefits to social media and restore some of that presence for Franklin. And when Meg came in and had some really great communications goals, really the only way to accomplish some of those goals was to start aligning and have it be someone's job to focus on those social media pieces. So that's what we do. And so, I'm not going to read through the report. I think you guys are able to kind of see, if you want to look at those second and third pages. One thing I will point out on the first page is one of the things that I always will give back to folks, and we're at kind of the halfway mark of our initial time together focused on increasing your engagement, increasing your awareness, and just getting the community involved on social media again, both Main Street and the Village. One of the things that I will always do is give some insights and some successes and the ways in which we can do this better, right? It's not always that you get to have an outside person looking in and saying, okay, we can do this, but if we engage a little more, we can do more. So I'm here to kind of give you where we've been, but also hear from you, your ideas, the things that you've seen work. Typically on a council, there are business owners and community folks and people who also use social media. And so I love to be able to engage with a team as much as possible, both internal staff teams, councils, committees. The more that we can engage, the better all of this will be. So, it's really me sharing what we've done, but also a really great call to action to you folks. I know there's some new people on the council that we haven't had a chance to introduce yet to the community. So really a great opportunity for us to say, all right, and now what else can we do? So if you look at some of those stats, because the Village and Main Street weren't doing a ton of social media prior to us kicking off really last summer, you will see that you have just ridiculous amount of growth. These are the kind of numbers that people really love to see, but really it's indicative of the fact that we came really from not much engagement at all on social media. Not saying that the work that we do isn't wonderful, and those numbers will continue to increase. But, the fact that your Instagram post reach is up 137% from when we started really was because, prior to the summer, there wasn't really much going on those Instagrams, except for, when an event happened or things like that. So what we really focus on for all of our clients, especially a community, is consistent, relevant, engaging information. So I believe that consistency is king when it comes to any type of social media, and especially when we look at the way that people earn credibility with social media. It's the reason that they will continue to follow, right? One viral post does some things, but it doesn't do that consistent, credible growth that you want in your community. You want them to know that if they want to know when a meeting's going to happen, they can go to your social media. If they want to know what's going on at the library this weekend or the church, they can come to your social media. That it just really builds that trust. So you will see both our numbers of impressions and things like that. And then some of our current goals that we're working on. We've just kicked off for the month of March a really fun campaign that we're doing with the businesses. And I just let a few of you councilwomen know that you're going to be involved. But beginning of the month, we started sharing just the incredible businesswomen that are in the community. I have to nail down your office team to make them let me take a photo also. But some of that just to celebrate the women business owners in the community. We just are having really great success with a post. I don't know if you guys saw it. I know some of the business owners saw it. We were out over the last couple of months just getting photos and videos of the open real estate. And so piggybacking what's available with how great the businesses are now. So it's a fine balance. We never want to make somebody look like their town is empty, but you have spaces that you want people to come and fill. So there's a nice balance there, and we pay attention to that balance of information and making sure that you really look like a successful, vibrant, growing community and when there's space to be had. And I did that work a lot with downtown Rochester for years early in my career, and kind of have been able to lean on those tactics as we've looked at other communities, and especially you guys in your downtown. So a lot of these stats I'm happy to answer questions on if you just want to ask questions on those, engagement and things like that. If you want to just go through those, everybody has that. I feel like reading presentations that you have is sometimes redundant. Yeah, Pam.
Thank you. This is interesting, and I'm really happy to see this, and it's exciting. My question is, piggybacking on the trajectory that is pretty steep right now that you're describing, how do you, because you work in other municipalities, what should we be expecting? How will this curve, the slope of this curve change?
Yeah.
And what's reasonable for us for Instagram? I think underneath that is, where should we be connecting with the community?
Yeah.
And is this what you expected?
Yeah, this is certainly what I expected starting out, right? And of course, like I said, these are beautiful numbers. What I consistently like to see is between 6 and 10% increase every month on somebody. You'll see on these where you see green. I just always want to see green. If it's not green, then it's red, and that just, then my team and I talk about, well, what post did we share last month? What is that looking like? We can really consistently tell what your audience likes to see and what grows that audience. So the consistency part of it is really the key, where we'll continue, no, we may not see a 200% increase, but we should always be seeing about a 5% increase. Some months will be quieter, some months will be louder. That's where our goal is to, hey, if there's no event going on this month, what else is happening? Did you know this about Franklin's history, if you've seen some of those? Not everybody wants to hear about compost when Susan sends me notes about compost, but we try to make that fun, and we're going to go out and get some composting photos here over the summer. I think those are the things that we'll see where the growth can happen. The other thing to note is that, the numbers of how many followers you have is, on the Facebook followers, it's about 1,900, but I'll have to pull it up. Your Instagram is low. So we should expect to see, and that's really just because Facebook was really the main place that the Village and Main Street were. That's where, the demographic is, which is fine. There's a lot more people on Instagram nowadays. Right now, the Instagram is a Main Street Instagram. And so what we do is we just speckle back and forth when we're going to put Village information there as well, since there's one source for it. But there's so much room for growth there that we really should consistently see more people in your community and around the community who just want the information and have a reason to follow you. Oh.
You go first.
Thank you, by the way. Echo what Pam has said.
Yeah.
Really appreciate this. Can you talk a bit about the content strategy and overall plan to get the most out of posts on Facebook, Instagram? Is there any blog posts or videos that might accompany those things? I'm thinking about how to get the very most out of these events or things that happen, and how, both residents can help with that and/or council. Is there anything we can do to help supplement those efforts?
Yes, everything. One of the things that we've talked about kind of kicking off as people are just out again, we are going to do a postcard stuffer that goes in the new resident bag that Lisa puts out, so that when new residents move into town, they can just scan a QR code and get to social media. Dana has started putting the information for social media with a simple QR code and more in the links in the email, e-newsletters. So we've kind of just tried to let more people in the community know that it's happening, and that there is information to be had. We did a kickstart of a little contest last year maybe before the frenzy, where we asked people to take puppy photos and things like that. And there were a few dogs that came into town, and we got a few photos. So some of those engaging things that we'll continue to do as businesses want to get involved. Part of my time has just been spent kind of getting the buy-in and building my credibility with the businesses, right? And the community, and letting them know, hey, we're here. I want to take your photo. I want to share your sale. I want to talk to you about things. But my plan starting this month and over the summer, when the weather is nicer and it's easier to kind of engage, will be to, do some around the town videos, talk to you guys a little bit more, stop at some of the businesses. So I would love, as much engagement as you all want to give, I will take. If you're going to be at an event, if you're going to just be stopping in to talk to somebody, if you have a spot in town you love, those are the photos that we love to see. Those are the videos we love to see. I know Meg and I have planned as part of that communications plan, and she's been nose deep in strategic planning, to start doing some recaps after a Monday meeting. But if that's something that you wanted to tag team with council and Meg, that'd be a really fun thing, where just a couple questions, right? What were the hot points at a city council meeting? People would much rather hear 5 bullet points from tonight and see it tomorrow on social media than watch it. I think I asked, there's like 23 viewers of your strategic planning meeting. I don't know how many are watching now. So I certainly will happily take time individually with each of you and meet and just talk about what your ideas are. But too, both myself and my team, we're happy to come out and do things. If you're going to be there. Susan also sometimes will piggyback us if I can't send someone out, and she'll take photos and get them to us. We're doing another photo shoot day on the 18th in town, where we're also going to do a kickoff with the Franklin, and their team will be there. And so we're waiting to confirm whether or not, I know that's coming quickly, he's waiting to confirm whether or not he's going to be allowed to serve any food yet that day. And then we'll let you know if you have time to stop in the afternoon. Great, there'll be some photo ops, but he didn't want to, it's not a grand opening, so he was nervous about saying anything about preparing any food until he can. So yeah.
Question about the content calendar.
Yes.
Does that exist?
Yep.
A plan for how many, different Instagram posts,
Yep.
Facebook posts, different categories as a measure of these things? So we understand that there have been spikes over time in these areas. Do we
Yeah.
understand what drove those spikes and how it informs what
We
the
do.
calendar might be?
Yeah, and I can certainly send you guys. We send a content calendar for the following month, every month, and then we've got a 6-month and annual outline based on just what happens on the calendar in town, based on national observances, things like that. But yeah, right now we're working on the April content calendar. So I'm happy to share with you guys even just the past 6 months of what that looks like. So we'll send Susan and Meg ahead of time the whole month. We say, here's what we've spec'd out, here's what we're looking at, here's what graphics or video will accompany it. I can tell you for sure that almost any time you see a spike, it's a video. So I'm happy to get any more video content that we can. We take as much as we can, and we come out to take some stuff, but anytime we can do more engaging things, it's great. But I will happily send you the content calendar.
Just a general understanding, you said with videos, so I know that within the Facebook platform, if you're scrolling over a video, it autoplays. Is that including an impression, or is it somebody who's clicking, watching? What constitutes it?
Yeah, so Facebook and Instagram are pretty similar in that. So the 2 numbers that I look at, and you'll see here, we try to look at engagement and then insights. So your insights are your scrolling, and then your impression is a little different. That means someone did hover over it for a minute. so that the reach is just how far it got, how spread it went, how many people could have possibly passed over it. And then the engagement is people who actually connected with something. So if you look at, and I can send you also some, when I send you the content calendar for next month, I'll also send you some pieces that are like some of our top posts from the last month. You can see those as well.
Like, what was the February 19th spike or 18th spike?
I'm gonna look right now because I can't remember. And I know that actually, that's I think that might be a Franklin post.
Is that Michael Seltzer?
Let's see. Yeah, I think it's probably one of the Franklin, yeah. Yes, yeah. I can't believe that was already all the way in February. It seems like that was just yesterday. Let's see. And I think that's Main Street. I'm pulling up the wrong social media. But if you want to ask additional questions while I'm,
Sorry.
yeah.
Do we have goals with metrics? Like, so 155 followers, that was 6 months ago, and today we have 189 followers. So we gained 34 followers over 6 months. But what's our goal? Like, how many followers do we want to gain a month? How are we reaching our goals? Like, what's our strategy? And also, there's, you can, whatever you post on Instagram can automatically be posted on Facebook. So we're like leveraging those, technologies to kind of make.
Yeah, we post everywhere whenever we're posting something. So all of those platforms are getting it. Like we said, this first 6 months is really just to like get a baseline, right? Even really, that's the first couple of months for us. Like I was saying to Pam, it's that 3 to 6 to 10% increase is always the goal. For someone like a village that is growing a little bit, it's slower. We're teaching your folks to get to Instagram. They haven't been there before. Your Facebook is growing pretty consistently. And has, but really it's that, all right, we can see that we've grown 30 in 6 months, which actually, surprisingly is great for a town. But now we'll set that goal saying, okay, if this is how many we can get by intentionally, consistently posting, now we'll set that 5% month over month.
Okay. And I know like the library has an excellent social media strategy, but every time anyone posts like in Franklin or about the library, they repost that. Are you like geotagging people who are posting within Franklin? Are you looking at that and
Yep.
trying to like repost it? Because, between the 13 to 33-year-olds, they're using Instagram
Yeah.
25 times a day.
Yeah, and that's really why we have focused on getting content there, because it wasn't really as much of a focus prior to us really doing that. And again, the balance for us, and it's something that's open for conversation, is now that we've been doing this for a little while, do you want to combine more of what the Village and Main Street do on Instagram? Because the Village itself doesn't have an Instagram. And so we toggle those things, but maybe there is a reason to just let it be Franklin, and it can talk about both, right? Now looking back.
I think for what I would like to see more is publicizing resident engagement opportunities. Like, if you look at your Instagram, you're like, oh, the Village is closed for 2 hours. Why didn't we tell them there was a workshop at 4:30? Like, it wasn't in the week, this week and the next, last weekend. It was posted Friday. So like, as a working parent, it's like I have to get a babysitter at my house by 4 o'clock so I can be at a 4:30. I find out Friday, Saturday, and Sunday I have to call in childcare. You know what I mean? So like, the public engagement opportunities, I feel like
I love
need to
that.
be publicized on Instagram,
Yeah.
and Facebook, and say like, hey, plan ahead, bring your popcorn, like grab your coffee,
Yeah.
have an early dinner, like, meet me at the Village, like
Yeah.
something like, share some stories with your neighbors. Because we have always said, planning has always said, it's extremely informative and helpful when we hear from the residents.
Yeah,
You know, and
for sure.
there's a lot of people that watch it after the fact, and that's something that, you know, we always hope for, but like for them to be here and for them to connect with us and for them to, for us to hear their stories is really powerful.
Yeah.
And important. And so I would like love to, I personally remind people via text, you know, but like, it's, you know, me sending these annoying texts all the time and being like, hey, if you need someone to watch your kids, like I have an extra babysitter, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I think like that engagement of the opportunities they can come, people are like, is there any other time for me to talk to you? It's like, well,
Right.
talk to me, but you can't talk to another person at the same time.
Right.
You know, so I just think like that's important of, you know, these are your opportunities to hear from your representatives and
Yeah.
contribute to democracy and be part of the, you know, your community and drive it forward. I would love to see that. And I know you're in a hard place because it's Main Street's not Franklin's.
But still, I think that is like, that's as much, you know, I want your feedback on that, right? I'm here to share your story. So the stories you give me and the time that you give me to share those, we're going to do it. So, you know, if that's important to you and you know it's important to your residents, then we can discuss with the internal team, okay, when was that workshop planned? I think we got the information kind of late to just make sure people knew it was closed. But when was the workshop planned? Let us know what's on the calendar. If there's a workshop planned, we'll promote it. Is it something the public can come to? Those are the conversations that I think, you know, if it's important to you guys, then as long as I get the information, I will figure out how to disseminate it. And if it's something that is worth a press release, we'll do that too. If it's an event that's open to the public and we can put it on some community calendars, we do that too. So it's really just the timing and that consistent, you know, just engaging me. I usually tell people I will happily be a fly on a wall anytime. If you've got notes you want to send, if you've got ideas, please, I will run with them.
Are we limited to just one Instagram account? So we've got the Main Street account. Why not have a Franklin Instagram
No,
account?
we're not limited at all. We can certainly do it.
Couldn't we, and then like cross-promote across both
Yep.
accounts?
Yeah, and that's what we started doing with the Facebook. What my suggestion always is to folks who are kind of starting from ground zero and figuring out what to do with a plan is to get what they have already consistent and working really well, and then add on new things, right? I get the TikTok question all the time, and I get these, those types of questions. Once we're engaging and we have video content and we have things that people want to talk about, and we can follow you guys around and do a day in the life and things like that, then yeah, that's more reason to have more platforms to share it. To get to that point, I like to make sure that people are engaged and ready and want to do that collaboration piece to get the content out there.
So my thoughts are, and again, I think that's why it's important to separate out Main Street versus Village, because I think for Main Street, it's important to tell the story, whereas I think for the Village, it's important for the engagement. And so it doesn't take as much planning or creativity to just, for me, I'm thinking about force multiplication, right? So we don't want to take up Village staff's time trying to be like, this makes sense as a village, is something to go in social media. Whereas if there's like a share, we have the calendar on the website where it's like, we know what's coming up. If there's, for instance, it's some way that we can take what the village staff is already doing as a source of truth for you to then just be able to auto-populate without having
Yeah.
to take direction.
And that's what we do now. So like the content calendars that we put together are based on what we get for what's upcoming, what's going in the newsletters that Dana does, what's happening on the website. Really, the pieces like Angelina's saying is, what are the pieces that need to happen sooner so that we can promote them in a different way? We're getting the information out there when the community gets it, right? But if there's a way that we can talk through and we can figure that out offline, but I think, what you're seeing now is that dissemination of information as it's ready and as it's getting on calendars and things like that. I certainly am open to finding some other ways to add on to that. And, as you guys are brainstorming, and as you guys are saying, I think we're going to do this. Okay, well, let's just peg it. And I'll remember to ask you later, did you decide you were going to do that? Any other questions?
I'm really curious about the idea of, is Main Street Franklin, is Franklin Main Street? And what's the difference between engagement for the village and in promoting the opening of a business, which is also about Franklin. So I think I don't have any any words of wisdom, but I'm curious about what you and the team here are going to conclude based on experience.
Yeah. And those are places where I'm gonna lean on how you guys want to share your story. You know, most communities that have a main street that's part of Main Street Oakland County and things like that, they do have their own Main Street presence. But that's not to say, and that's, you know, you'll see, right? We don't post zoning meetings on the Main Street page. But we are gonna share, you know, the block party to the village page, right? So that strategy is back and forth. One of the reasons that I try to just start with where people are at is because then you are growing an engagement, right? You're not just starting from ground zero, you're building on something else. And you have something to share back and forth too, right? So they can work together. I always, you know, and wherever your people are is where you should start talking to them, right? You have some people on the village and some people on Main Street. So getting them to learn how to there's people on the village's page that don't follow Main Street, right? We invite them to make sure they're following both. So some of that just takes the intentionality besides sharing both places.
And to me, it also raises questions of like the role that some of us are in, right? Like if we're being interviewed as a trustee, we probably would be on like the Franklin page.
Right.
But if I'm dining, you know, with a few girlfriends at the Franklin,
Yes.
then I'm a patron, right?
Yes.
And then you're thinking like, I'm a consumer, I'm patroning these businesses. This is, you know, trying to foster economic growth, whereas like
Right.
a village is engaging the constituents, you know, without a monetary, you know, goal in mind.
Right.
Like we invite you to come as you are,
Yes.
any age that you are, you know, with any idea, with any insight, with any point of view, like freedom of speech, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Businesses are private businesses, you know, so like, I think that it's the role-based
Yes.
conflict could come in
Yeah.
as well. And also like social media handles from us, personal versus professional, have to be, you know, a delicate balance as
Yeah,
well.
and that, you know, again, that's why I say, like, I would lean on you guys, you know, how do you want to share this? And you know, I think that both the village and Main Street can happily, specifically the village for you guys, if you're sharing an update about something and you want to make sure that, you know, if you guys are not tagging consistently the village's social media, please do. We'll reshare those. We want to engage with you as well. It's the same thing that we ask the community of. So as much or as little as you want to engage, we will utilize that. But you're right. You know, it's that point of, yes, you know, trustee was at the restaurant. Main Street's going to create that. And then the village is probably going to can share it.
Yeah.
But it allows those two pieces to talk to each other.
One of the other aspects I like what the library does is they do informal real-time polls. You know, I mean, something as simple as like, should we have, you know, like cups outside the bathroom in case you forget your water bottle, or should we have like a water bottle filter, you know, where you can see how many bottles of water, how many plastic bottles we're saving, like something
Yeah.
as simple as that. Should we paint this color? Like when should we do our Easter egg hunt? Like very simple, real-time,
Yeah.
quick engagement, and then they'll get like a good read,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because people that follow the page are usually following the page for events, so they
Yeah,
know
for
like,
sure.
oh, this Friday's not good because there's a half day at the school, so no one's gonna be here.
Yeah.
So I would like to see that, because like, as Meg and I know, like, surveys cost so much money, but sometimes just getting that quick initial impression,
Yeah.
like, hey, you know, do we need to be open the day after Thanksgiving, you know?
Right.
Probably not, or something
Right.
like that. Or maybe
I love that.
bills.
Yeah. And that's that's the piece where like use us, right? That's what we're here for. So if you guys are talking about something and you need to figure it out, I will say, because I was in the previous meeting, you know, we've worked on a couple of millages, you know, community engagement and PR is just such a huge part of that. And those are the types of conversations that you can and will want to be prepared for, right? Hey, this is your community. We want you engaged. We want to hear your voice. So starting to get people used to that would be amazing now, regardless of what that looks like. But yeah, you know, please utilize. We're here for that. So, you know, any ideas that you have, if you want to see a poll happen, shoot a note over, and we'll do that.
Anybody else have any questions? Thank you. So is this
All right.
something we're gonna see regularly, these types of?
Yes, we talked about, I mean, I send notes to these guys monthly. I can make sure that we put them in our project management, but we can send monthly, but maybe we plan on a quarterly to have me out on your guys' agenda. But feel free, like, don't wait until you see me again to ask me questions or say, why didn't we share something? Or what's your plan for X day? I actually love getting those emails of, what's your plan for this day next month? And if I don't have it, we'll make it happen. All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda are public requests and comments, which is the time on the agenda. If anybody has something they want to say which is not addressing an item elsewhere on the agenda, now is the time to address us.
I'm sorry, was that for public comment?
That was public comment, if you have it.
Yeah, what I'd like to just publicize this booklet that the FCA and FHS has developed to be given out to primarily to be given out to new residents of Franklin. So it orients them about the various organizations and the government and how it works. It's got a bunch of history in it that people should really be interested in, and kids can learn something about their own community.
And where can you get those?
This is free. They're here at the Broughton House. They're at the library. They're at the Slade House. We want to get these out. We've got lots of them. We don't want to send them out. It's expensive. So you should let your neighbors know about it. And please, make
Definitely a
it
wonderful resource, so
known, yeah.
the more we can get that out to let people know it's available.
You know, we could do that, a
Huh?
social media post.
Come grab your booklet. Abby had an idea of putting it on social media that they can.
see that in the next week or so. Bring that great info. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. Anybody else? Okay. Reports of village officers and agents. Chief Lawson.
Good evening. I'll be relatively brief. I know you've been sitting here for a while. Any questions on the monthly report?
I like the new format.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is there, sorry, are you going to talk about like the impact of the 696 closures?
I wasn't planning on it, but I can
Okay.
answer questions.
Has there been a negative impact to our village, and what do you recommend, or how are we mitigating?
So there hasn't been any negative impact to the village of Franklin, but there's been some negative impact to the village of Bingham Farms.
Okay.
Certainly, some mothers beat me up last week over us not directing traffic at Bingham Farms Elementary.
Yeah.
But that's fine. It's really, it's a partnership between the police department, the school, Oakland County Road Commission. This is a problem that's been going on for years that really needs to be addressed. And I did have a meeting with school officials on how we can work together, even with the PTO, and try to find solutions to the problem long-term. Short-term, it's just something that we can't staff. We can't do it, direct traffic twice a day at both the Huda School and at Bingham Farms Elementary, unfortunately. So, so we're looking for solutions. But yes, there's been an increase in traffic, certainly on 13 Mile Road from Telegraph East.
Okay.
I did find myself resonating with the people who were urging you to have more of a presence at the school. And I was reminded of the Huda School, when the Huda School was, years ago, when they were trying to figure out how to manage pickups. And it was pretty awful. Yeah,
Sure.
but the police presence mattered a great deal. I wondered if, did you end up reconsidering the requests from the parents about Bingham? Or have you been able to reach some kind of middle ground on that?
So with the Huda School, yes, we had a police presence to educate the parents as they pulled into the lot. And then I spoke and Meg spoke with their PTO and our expectations and maybe alternatives on a traffic flow pattern. And we want to do the same thing at Bingham Farms. Like I said, there's really no way that I can dedicate our 2 officers to direct traffic twice a day, 5 days a week, right? I don't think that's fair to Franklin. I don't think it's fair to all the residents in general. I don't see an additional safety issue with more traffic. If anything, when we usually have an officer that runs radar in front of Bingham Farms Elementary in the morning, and we have not been doing that because the traffic is going so slow. And having an officer sitting there, then they're wondering, well, why isn't that officer directing traffic, when really it does take 2 officers to safely do that.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
But I think education and awareness is
Yeah.
great, and I think that the first step in the strategy that you're pursuing is the solution, so.
Thank
When
you.
there's not construction, there's not an ongoing problem at Bingham School like there was at Huda School back in the day, which didn't matter whether there was a construction project going on, there was just traffic capacity issues. Has there, outside of this recent 696 closure, has there always been an in and out issue at the Bingham School?
I think when the school was originally built, it was designed to traffic flow for buses. And as we see in the last, 15 years or so, parents like to drop off their kids, and there's just an increase in traffic. So I've suggested, traffic lights, which is a request that have to be made by the school to the Oakland County Road Commission. Turn on left signs, staggered start times. Again, a collaborative idea with the PTO, and maybe they can have some ideas as well. So, but really, it's just not the police that are going to solve the issue. It's all of us together.
I was gonna say signage and lights
Yeah.
and, everything you just mentioned, so.
And the school district does have to pay for those lights, so I think that's maybe been the hang-up in the past, so. All right, so I have some exciting news, and the next several meetings, I have some new initiatives I want to announce, but the big one I want to announce tonight, and I'll be quick, I know people are waiting, is that our department will begin the process of law enforcement accreditation through the Michigan Association of Chiefs of Police. We plan on beginning this 2-year process this coming May. Accreditation is a strategic initiative aimed at enhancing the effectiveness, accountability, and professionalism of a law enforcement agency. This accreditation will align our agency's operations with both state and nationally recognized standards to improve operational efficiency, transparency, and accountability, implement a rigorous process of self-assessment, external evaluation, and continuous improvement to foster public trust and confidence, ensure our agency maintains a culture of professionalism and ethical conduct, reinforcing the importance of community safety and service, and provide our agency with a structured framework for optimizing policies, procedures, and practices. This accreditation program will serve as a cornerstone in our ongoing commitment to the highest standards of public safety, community engagement, and operational excellence. And what's great about this accreditation is we're being looked at every year once we gain accreditation. So long after I retire, we have to keep up those same standards as we move forward to keep accreditation. And I know Mr. Solly right now is thinking, that sounds expensive. All right, so Meg has always been a proponent of me looking for grants. And through her encouragement, we did go out for 2 grants, which will cover the cost of the accreditation fee, as well as the software platform in which we must use for the process. So it's completely covered, so thanks to Meg.
No, team effort here.
And then finally, I'll say that Meg and I had the pleasure of attending the February Franklin Mobile Watch meeting. We renewed our commitment to them and their mission, and look forward to meeting with them in the future and helping them out and working together. Any questions?
Not a question on that, but just, I think generally, again, social media posts regarding the mobile watch would be very helpful about what they do. I think generally, I don't think people fresh to the community or new to the community have a great understanding of what that entails.
Sure.
I think the accreditation as well. I mean, I think renewed confidence across the board is helpful for people to know and just understand
Yeah.
to what standards you'll be holding yourselves to, and, like the overall longevity of what that program will
Sure.
bring to the force.
And I think
That's
it builds momentum for the public safety millage that we may be pursuing,
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Chief Tony.
Good evening. Fire Department has delivered our monthly report to you as well. With reference to activities, with the weather now being able to walk outside without a coat, at least for today. You never know what tomorrow brings. We're going to initiate our 2025 training programs. These will take place mainly on weekends, but throughout some days, depending on weather. So you may be seeing extra activity from the fire personnel in the apparatus as we continue to remain prepared for responding to incidents in the village. The only other thing I'd like to add is that with reference to the spring, that comes with spring cleanups and leaf fires, debris clearing, obviously only natural debris, and I would just encourage residents to follow the ordinance and to request an online permit. They're free of charge at fbfd.com. Pending your questions, that'll conclude my report.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Lance?
Good evening, trustees and president. Please accept my written report in the capacity as the village treasurer. The bills list report for this month totals $211,765.96, and the amounts on the bills list are consistent with normal monthly spending, and the expenditures are generally consistent with our budget. The bills list for this month includes a large entry of $10,516.48, and it's for installation of, I believe, police equipment paid to Canfield Equipment Service for one of the squad cars. The village has sufficient funds to meet its current and anticipated obligations, and the list of account balances in the package is as of March the 1st that we hold at First Merchants Bank. Any questions?
Anybody? Thanks, Lance.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, next is the submission of our current bills list. Anybody have any questions for anybody?
I have some questions. How often are we getting plumbing, mechanical, and electrical inspections?
That happens every month.
What are they inspecting?
It's from the permits that people pull when they're having renovations or new construction done, and they have to go out there and inspect. We get all that money back in.
Okay, so that's separate than the official building duties that Bill does?
Yes, so we
Okay.
have a mechanical inspector, we have a mechanical and plumbing and an electrical inspector. Those are two different people. They run inspections on different times than Bill. Bill's our building official, so he does a different role. So in order to maintain, a building department that is up to standard, we are required to have these inspectors. They come in set days every week to run the inspections, so, and that's the fee that we pay to have them work with us.
Because his fee seems to be like around the same, where the inspection
Yep.
fee fluctuates a lot.
Yep.
Okay, so that's consistent, okay.
Yeah, doing totally different jobs. So our electrical and then mechanical plumbing, they don't take a seat in the office, they're not here answering questions, they're not doing plan reviews. They are picking up a schedule, heading out on the road and doing the inspection. So definitely in the same wheelhouse as Bill, but a different role.
Okay, and then, we have another big expense from, Plant Moran. Was that $7,700 just to prepare those budget amendment in the presentation?
Budget amendments and the remaining of the work that they had to do for the audit.
Okay, and this is because our finances were so poorly kept, right? Like, that's why it's been so expensive the past 3
It's
months.
been a little chaotic in that. You're also looking at probably, other than budget season, which we're in right now, where we'll use Plant Moran, the highest cost of Plant Moran is that audit. So they go through with Raina and prep all the numbers, make sure that everything is up to date. So they are putting in a ton of work in, say, middle of November through the end of the year. So those are high Plant Moran bills, but that would be consistent with what you would see in years past. A portion of that was dedicated to the budget amendment, but that's not for the budget
Okay, 'cause
amendment.
that's kind of what it says here.
Yeah.
It looks like it costs $7,700 to prepare the budget amendment that we voted on last month.
It's a portion of that's a budget amendment, and then a portion of that's gonna be audit services, work that they're getting ready for the audit. So you'll see a larger Plant Moran always right around the audit time, and you'll see it also influx right around budget time, because that's when we're using them a lot.
Okay. Those were my only questions.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, we get a motion to adopt the current bills list.
Motion to adopt.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, pay the bills. Uh, So now we move the consent agenda up to this point. So there are two items on the consent agenda, both events which are becoming annual staples, Oktoberfest, a one-time annual, and 3 for the Music on the Green. That's nice to see. The way consent agenda works is, unless anybody wants to take it off for further and more detailed discussion, we approve it in mass. Anybody have any comments with the consent agenda?
I'd like to ask about the Music on the Green, mostly to say how happy I am that there's 3 concerts.
Good.
That's an increase. That's a threefold increase over last
Last
year, I
year,
think.
If I could comment quickly
Yeah.
on that. What we're seeing with Music on the Green this year is that it's predominantly going to be hosted by the Franklin Historical Society. Now, they're gonna be working with the community association, but given the different climate that we're in this year, the Historical Society has really stepped up to program and take the big lead on that. So, here in the village, we have been making it very clear that we're here to help volunteer and to collaborate, because these are heavy lifts. But one of the last things we wanted to see was, you know, for us to have to pause Music on the Green. So we're really thankful that the Historical Society stepped in and was able to take the lead on that. We're supporting them over here in the village, and of course it is an FCA event, so they'll be working in conjunction, but lots of heavy lifting by FHS, so we're very thankful to see that.
That's wonderful.
Awesome. Yeah. And again, like the dues we pay to those associations, you know, seeing it come back.
Right.
All right, anybody else have any questions? All right, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, awesome. Look forward to those events. Information hopefully on social media as well as the website. So look for that in the future. What's the first date for
I
music?
believe it's,
July 30th, okay.
yeah, And then there's a
Oktoberfest
following one in-
Is not till October, right?
in August. July 30th and August 6th for Music on the Green,
There's 3.
and then the 13th of August.
Do we make sure those don't conflict with the block party? Okay.
Yes. Yep.
I certainly don't want that. And are those on Wednesdays again?
Yes.
Okay, so 30th, 6th, the 13th might be the only one that conflicts with planning. Okay, next are special reports. I only have one item. I had one resident reach out to me. So for those residents that are wondering, right now, when you see the underground work going on in the right-of-way throughout the village and along Inkster Road and such, that is Extenet and another company which are installing more fiber optic lines within the village. Fiber optic lines serve for internet service as well as land phone lines. Unfortunately, they don't really help much on cellular service. But that is why you're seeing all that work done in the right-of-way, and I believe that all that work is for AT&T. So one of the residents had asked me is, how do we benefit? If you're an AT&T customer, then your internet's gonna get faster and your phone's gonna get faster. For, excuse me, Xfinity and what else we have, WOW here, that's not gonna help much. Not that it's an issue. That's all I have. Anybody on council wanna address anything?
Yeah, so I circulated out a proposal to everybody that there's a hard copy in front of you. This is something that as we start to think about strategic plans for 2025, I feel strongly about, which is the creation of a junior council, which would allow us to create a coalition with local high school students to represent and kind of do a simulation of what we do. And really the identification is for them to identify one thing that they can accomplish within 9 months to a year. So again, just wanted to get this proposal for people's consideration. But I think that it would provide both a lot of value to our youth as well as a fresh perspective for our village, as well as some additional bandwidth to get something done to benefit the good of the community. The only thing that I would say is I am interested because when we were going through the strategic plan, the conversation around the Franklin Young Entrepreneurs and Makers, is that something that exists today, or is that, and who, did somebody come up with a proposal for that?
It came out during the Economic Development Collaboration meeting.
Okay.
That was proposed by Mark Hankey.
Oh, wonderful.
It's just in an early brainstorming
Yeah.
spot, and that was a good avenue as it ties into possibly using the barn
Yeah,
as
absolutely.
concessions.
Right.
So that's why it's over there, but you know that it's in early phases, and that's just came out of those collaborative meetings over there.
Okay.
And from what I gather at this point, you know, of course, these are all just ideas, but isn't really looking for a lot of staff to go ahead
Yeah.
and facilitate
Right.
that program, which is important because, you know, we don't have necessarily the capacity to absorb a new program like that, even though we would like to support it. So, that is going, if it were to move to fruition, we would see that further down the road, and it would be managed in a different way outside of the village office.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Maybe a small idea on this?
Mhm.
So we've got some high school students who would be nominated to this?
So essentially, we would do outreach to, and again, a representative from the council would do outreach to the high schools to promote applications. We'd receive the applications. We as a panel would consider the applications, make a selection to create the council. So yeah, that's how it would be through an application process.
Is there any opportunity to extend this into college, like having an intern serve as like the council president or the junior
Yeah, certainly, and that's what this is for, is to ideate off of. So if we think something's, like that would provide a little bit more direction for the autonomy, to ensure that it drives forward without too much oversight, then I think that's something that we should definitely do. I thought one of the additional benefits that this could provide, though, is for somebody's application into college, showing an interest in public service, true engagement in public service, and driving, some type of activity and volunteerism through fruition.
Yeah.
It's a nice idea, David.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like this idea a lot, especially high schoolers need community service hours like NHS and student council. And Farmington Hills has something similar to this called a Mayor's Youth Council, because they have a mayor who's in charge of their city. And the students on the Mayor's Youth Council are always the ones staffing events. So like for the block party, they would be the one working the tents to take some time and commitment off of the staff that we have in the village office, selling tickets, helping the kids, navigate the different installations that there are. So I think this is great, and it's also a source of content for social media, and it builds up, the future leaders of Franklin, and also gives us a sounding board. Like, what does this demographic want to see in Franklin? Are they using pathways? Do they need sidewalks? What would they want in this community that we don't have right now? And I think this is a great source of engagement and a sounding board that we haven't really used much.
And I didn't really have a lot of time to review this because I got it right before the meeting here was distributed, but it does look like a council-led initiative.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Which I think, when you look at it from that perspective and how that's different than maybe a college intern would be more of an administrative, a college intern would be, I would picture more of an administrative-led initiative, where this would really open up mentorship between you guys as council members with them and be more of a council-led initiative. So I can see that being really unique and also different than your typical internship of a college student, right? More of a mentorship program.
I don't see this costing the village, funds, like this is
Or
a.
resources,
Yeah.
really, because
Right,
it looks
exactly,
like you
for
guys
sure.
would be
Then
the
that's
ones.
the goal. Yep.
And
Exactly.
So, I mean, obviously, we're here to support it and help with that, but looking at this initiative and seeing this way to bridge the gap and bring in the youth without having to pick up an extra strain on staff, I think could be really helpful for us. So, I mean, obviously, we would be supporting the program through staff and helping in ways that we could, but having it be council-led, I think, is unique, and I think that that really opens up this door for mentorship beyond just a task that's assigned to an intern.
Yeah, it says a subcommittee of the village council, so
Yeah.
even though you haven't read it,
So-
you knew what it was.
You're, in order to create the junior council, it would need to go to an existing subcommittee to try and vet this out, or you guys want to try and vet something out this, at the council level? Is this something that goes to our, I don't know if we renamed it, our talent committee? The
People committee?
The
I
people
think
committee?
people committee, in my perspective, would be a great place to vet the idea and to start with it, and then maybe work out some specifics, and then bring a proposal back from people.
No, but I'm
Yeah.
more than happy to allow them.
Right.
This is, an outline and then additional
Yeah.
ideas can
And
be
then I'm
added,
just
so.
curious, your vision of 5 high school students, all Franklin residents?
My goal would, and we can create priority for that, right? Like, we can say prioritize
I
Franklin
would say,
residents.
yeah, priority would be Franklin
Right.
resident, Birmingham School District.
Yep, exactly.
And then, stay within the pecking order
Right.
of where our village is, but, okay.
Yeah. Would you be the mentor of that then, since I'm assuming that, but I'm.
I'm
how would you
passionate,
see-
so I just want to see this happen. So if somebody else felt like they had a strong desire to step into that role, then again, I have no issue handing that responsibility, or not contesting that responsibility.
Yeah.
But to push it forward, I'd be absolutely happy to continue to drive it.
It's a great
I
idea.
mean, I think it's a great idea.
That segment of our community has a much bigger say in the world than maybe when we were growing up.
Well, the existing group that works with young people, it would be Eagle Scouts. That's been the most prominent youth-oriented organization in the village that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
So, and having some experience working with public schools, how would you see this becoming embedded as part of the school calendar? Or would you? I mean, how would you recruit? Would there be like a sponsoring school? Would there faculty?
I don't
do
think that it has
That's
to
the whole
be.
idea for the whole vetted out.
That's
Yeah.
part of the
Process.
vetting?
Right.
Okay, so
Yeah.
this is an idea
Yep.
and then make
Yeah,
it
it's
in
a
habit.
wonderful
It's
idea,
something-
more than an idea, it's
Okay.
pretty detailed, so I think
Yeah.
handing
Yeah.
this off to one, to
People committee, I think, and we'll kind of look at it from there, and as we're just briefly, brainstorming, right, how do you get it into the schools, I think it's something that if we could get a good idea, we have a lot of details right now in this proposal, get it through people, and then maybe David Solly and I go meet with the principals of the schools, we'll have some material that would advertise the program, and then maybe it's something that they can, engage the students with, or, as the administrator or the president, or however you guys want to do that, we can get into the schools and with the superintendent and find a safe and a way to share this message and to recruit people locally.
Thank you.
great, nice
Yeah,
idea.
thank you.
Anything else? Mr. David?
Just one comment on this proposal. Latest census data has, between the ages of 10 and 19, 8% of our population. So it's under 200 people, that even our ages 10 to 19.
Yeah,
So your population is quite small.
fairly low.
To get, to make this workable within the village.
Mm-hmm.
Right, I think that was a starting point.
Yep. We should save those comments for public comment and have them at the microphone.
Well, yeah, and again, this is only council reports.
Yep.
We still got things to do, so this will find its way back again in the near future.
Yes.
Anybody else have anything you want to add? Anything you want to say? Angelina?
Sure. So just want to recognize International Women's Day and Women's Month for March. We have a female-heavy office staff, and I just want to recognize their contributions and the team that Meg leads and the Are you the first female administrator we've had?
Nope.
Oh,
Nope.
okay. Well, since I've lived here, so just, the barriers that you're breaking or continuing on, recognize that. And then the simplification that you did in the workshop was just very impressive. And I always say, like, the simpler the PowerPoint, the more work you did behind it. Because when someone presents a lot of information, it really doesn't mean that they understand it well. So the fact that you could distill it down so well, I know that that was a challenge, and that is compliments to your expertise. One of the things that I know I've been saying off and on is I really like to get a handle on the governance of the office, like the processes, our procurement process, our appointment process, our issue management process, our retention annual review process, social media policy, council agenda, travel. Those things, I think there's like a half dozen that policies that we may have, but just like refresh us on them or make them visible and transparent to residents so they know if they like report an issue, how it travels through to resolution and where it could get stuck. If they like send an email in, does it go to you first, or is there like different levels? How do they know someone's working on it even if they don't hear feedback? Should they call again? With like council agendas, sometimes I'm just like, I don't even know how to get something on an agenda. Procurement, it's just kind of like, do we have, do we do the due diligence of, in our contracting processes? And I know that you do, but it's just like to have it written down and then repeatable processes. I think is important. So that way, like, if someone does ask a question, well, I don't know, how did this person get the contract? Well, we followed this process, and then you just have something to stand on. So I like governance is just something that I do in my professional life. So it's important that I feel like you're maturing the entire like professionalism of the office. And I think that would like also be, I would like to see that as part of that maturity.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that a lot of those things do exist and have over time, and it's about compiling them. I think that it's been a particularly hectic time to start this position, having our PD negotiations going right into budget season. The council flipped, we have all these new members here. So the amount of things that we've been pushing to get done, just in my head, we need to get through budget season. And I am definitely creating space for moving through budget season and into having time to really sit and pull out these finite processes, to look at all our contractors, that would be a good project, to make sure the website's up to date. So there's so much work to do as far as organization, there just is not capacity right now.
Yeah.
So, but I think that that's all really good feedback. I think that the first thing is a lot of that does exist, it's just about how accessible it is. We can always work on that, of course, and I think that, right now, council, we need to stay super focused on working in our subcommittees and getting through budget season, and then, yes, I envision a summer of real organizational cleaning and work. I'm going to have, the files digitized and get the rest of it out of here, and so there is a plan to kind of work on that, and I think that's really good feedback. I just know that, like, being that there are only 4 of us here, and that so much is just, split between us. Right now, we're really focused on getting through the budget, but those are all good feedback and things that we should be focusing on for sure. And I can see it being a summer of the organization.
Thanks, Gwen.
Me? Oh, I feel like I've talked a lot tonight. We've been super busy again. Budget, contract negotiations. We'll go to the finance committee on Wednesday with the PD to kind of start talking about, and then they'll come to council following after that. With PD, it's just that time of year. We are working on calculating all our SAD figures to go overhead and give to Bingham Farms so they can estimate and budget for this coming year. Last week, staff had a big, server program update, bringing all of our Microsoft programs up to date, removing one of our servers, putting some of it in the cloud. There was a lot of technology work that was done here that was scheduled, but ideally, it's just gonna make us more organized, to have information easier to be accessed, and to get rid of the things that we don't need over here anymore. I did wanna mention that this morning, the sub pump of this building went out. We experienced significant flooding in the basement. It was noticed by Bill Dinnan when he got in the morning, you could hear water running. We disconnected the sub pump. Jerry Johnson made space in his day to come over and start helping us come up with a plan and figure out what to do with it. I don't have any concrete information yet about what the repair cost would be or what the replacement would be, but I just did want to mention that that work is being done, that did happen last night. Some boxes in the basement, some old files were definitely flooded. I can say that they're not our street files, and I haven't, since I was here all day, I didn't want to get full of dirty water down there this morning, so I haven't dug through everything yet. But we can anticipate that there were files in the basement, that some of which have been destroyed. And that's all the more reason why exactly what Angelina is saying, organization, getting these things in place are so important. We had a big shred it day last week. It was a combination effort with the PD and with us. So when I got over here, we started cleaning out files. We had files that we did not need to be keeping from the 60s, random things that, and everything went through on a retention schedule. Everything that we got rid of should have been gotten rid of 20 years ago, things that just didn't need to be here. And so one, that's cleaning up file space for us. It's making sure that we're sticking to retention schedules and cleaning things out. So we did our first big pull. We're gonna do another one at the end of the summer. That gives us the summer, us and the PD, including the files that we keep outside of the PD, but over in the Krieger, to go through everything, get anything scanned we need to get scanned, and get the rest of it out of here. Start a better precedent of how we're storing files and accessing information. So just reinforcing that today when we had some water in the basement there. So other than that, I had my meet and greet since we've last met. I was able to go over to the community library, meet with some members of the community, and talk to everybody over there. And as Chief mentioned, we both went to the Mobile Watch meeting. We're always looking for opportunities to come engage with our community. So if a resident's listening to this and they have a meeting, or they have questions, or they'd like to talk to us, both Chief and I are pride ourselves in being accessible and accepting that feedback. So reach out to us, let us know. We're here to work with you and talk to you about whatever you have going on. And that's really all I have.
Thank you, Matt. Jordan, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you all? Last month, we did not have a meeting as a planning commission, but the intention for this month is to have a public hearing with the new updated cellular coverage ordinance. The other thing is we're discussing new appointed members of planning, which I'm excited about. As they get their emails for the village, can we get those email addresses posted on our planning as well? Because I do get comments periodically asking how do we get in contact with planning, and that's one way that they can look. So if you could help with that. Any questions from council for me? It's pretty light considering.
No, are you gonna hang around?
I will.
I know, I mean, obviously Dan was involved as well, so we get his perspective, but you'll be here when it's next, actually, once
Yes.
Stephen's done. Yeah, okay, great.
Just a quick question, as a reminder only, when does the master plan come back in for the final review? I'm trying to track that.
That's me. So
Oh, okay.
we are in the process right now of updating the website and creating a landing page for it, creating a separate email address where residents can email feedback directly to the master plan. Then it's released for its 63-day review period. We've approved the review period, but we have to still release it to all of the applicable communities. Then we'll get notification after the 63 days from Oakland County that it's been reviewed. Then we have a meeting with the county where they will review the plan, present their report with any feedback, and then sort of give their blessing. Then after that period, we would go back, look at any of the other feedback we had collected, on the website or from residents, and then it would come back. So if you're looking for a time frame, I would say end of July, probably, by the time that that's done.
For some reason, I thought it had been out. Why do I think it had been sent out to the neighboring communities?
Because you approved, council did approve the master plan to be out for review.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have not, those are all me things. I have not had
okay, just
the
checking.
capability or capacity to do any of that,
All right.
yeah.
Stuart's tired of me asking. He's tired
It's
of me
not a
asking.
No, it's
Stuart
all right.
thing.
Lance
It's
is
just a
tired of
lot
us.
of admin. It's just, our planner consultant has done what he
All
can.
right, okay.
But it's really outside of his scope, and
Yeah.
so there's just a lot of work to be done on
All
that,
right,
so.
thank you.
This
for
is the
that.
challenge I face with having several former planning commissioners on council.
Thank you
Thanks,
very
Stuart.
much.
Susan?
So I'll be fast. As you know, we have been working with Pam and the church and baseball and many other people on trying to reprogram Krieger, the barn, get some funding for the church, the green, all of those kinds of things. So some exciting stuff, hopefully. You guys have that in your packet from earlier. Other than that, we will be doing a work plan quarterly review. We do have some dates set for like the block party, Franklinstein Frenzy, summer block party, or sip shop and stroll. So we'll get those dates out soon. I'll get civic event permits going on those soon. That's really the highlight of it.
I would love to see, and I think other council members might be excited to see the work plan,
Okay.
so that
Yeah, I'll share.
we know what Main Street is
Yep.
doing this year.
Yep, we'll share it in the next
Okay,
go around.
Be good, thank you.
Okay.
And then could we get updates on the Franklin and Grey Dog Cafe?
So the Franklin, they should be opening the end of March is what I have been hearing.
We don't have any.
No, I don't have a date.
stone, But that is the word on the
Yep,
street.
that's the word on the street. Grey Dog, they are still in process. They've been working with us on some grants with MEDC and some things like that. So I was going to follow back up with her on that too. So I'll have more, hopefully, to report next month
And
on
just
that.
to piggyback off of that, we're in good contact with Great Dog. They went through a shift of partners and kind of how they were going to go ahead and get up and running. So if it seems like you haven't heard an update in a while, internally from them, they were doing some shifting. We've been here in the village to help assist that. We've pointed, some people we think bring great resources over to Grey Dog to try and help assist over there. So communication's been great with Grey Dog. We know what's going on, and we've been able to circle back and check in when necessary. It's just the lack of maybe movement that we've seen has been more internal.
It's them,
than that.
yeah, it's them, so.
But I do think that, they still have this goal of opening relatively shortly, at least for the summer season. So hopefully we start to see some real movement and updates.
And the Van Avery, that's another one. We'll be meeting with them next week. They're pretty close. The inside is done. She's got to do some exterior work, so that'll be the next thing. That should be open and going by summer too.
Which will be really exciting, yeah. And we're meeting with the owner who is out of state this week to go over some of the final details. But if you watch the HEC and planning from last month and the month before, some of their improvements went through. So great progress over there. Susan is doing an excellent job reaching out to all of these people and making.
Yeah, when I know people and I do reach out to them and we're trying to get these spaces filled, so.
Yep.
Okay?
Thank you.
Okay, so we are on to old business. Our only item of old business is consider approval of the proposed amendment to the Village Code, Section 307, which is our regulations dealing with open burning. So the ordinance originally went back to planning to help us with some inconsistency we had seen with regard to the bonfire piece of the ordinance. But it appears that after it got back to planning, and I think Chris did a deeper dive into outdoor burning, came to see that there is actually a state statute which governs this type of activity. And it looks like you guys also had to bring our ordinance in line with that statute. So what we're seeing is sort of an entirely new ordinance. I was originally looking to see where the changes were from the crossover, but when I went back and looked, it's completely changed and formatted. What you guys did a real nice job. So we have a memo, I hope everyone saw, that Chris Dusen, our planning consultant, wrote in January on the item. And Meg gave us a brief synopsis as well. So Stuart, since we don't have the benefit of Chris here, why don't you just give us the Reader's Digest version on how we got here, and Dan, please, if you can shed any light on it as well, feel free.
Right, yep, so when planning was requested to look at the ordinance again by council, we looked into it more than just the kind of narrow focus that was given, and saw that the state of Michigan has recommendations with regards to outdoor burning ordinances. So we wanted to follow what the state of Michigan already has in place, and not deviate from that. Also, planning felt that focusing on just the narrow portion that was asked of us was not going to be sufficient for an update. So that's why we have a little bit more extensive of an ordinance update. So in addition to changing the bonfire ordinance from being just an open permit without actually submitting a permit, we're requesting that villagers have a permit. Plus, we clarified the definitions of different types of fires in our definition of the new burn ordinance, and so that's kind of the main difference is why we returned to the village the way we did. Ultimately, we live in a rural village, and our villagers are should be responsible in the way that they use fire on their properties and respect the neighbors and the fires that they create, so that they're not a nuisance for their neighbors. Be cognizant of neighbors with asthma when they're doing it. We don't have it in the ordinance, but we should be, neighborly about it as well. So bonfire, I think ultimately when we talk to the fire chief, the challenge that we run into is that he wants to make sure that we ensure is that, one, that there's a way to put the fire out, two, that the fire is manageable, and three, that it is managed. So those are the main underlying criteria. It's consistent with what the state also recommends. But there have been times in the village where our neighbors have left fires unattended, and the police and the fire department has had to come and put them out. So we're trying to minimize that. We don't want to reduce the ability of our neighbors from being able to have campfires and cook over fire. That's not the intent of this ordinance. The intent is to, when you're burning brush and debris on your property, that you do it in a safe manner.
Is that the threshold for obtaining a permit if it's brush and debris? Like your normal burning bonfires don't need a permit, correct?
So bonfire does need a permit, but that's mostly that's because you're burning brush and debris in a bonfire.
Okay.
So a campfire where you're like maybe cooking or gathering at a social gathering, it's not as necessary. But the point though is it's not onerous. Anytime you have a fire, you just pull a permit, because regardless of whether or not it needs a permit or not, it's a safety factor for the fire department. We're not saying that specifically the ordinance for all cases, but it's not a bad practice to be in if you're going to have a fire.
I mean, our fire department wants to know when there's fires going on other than a simple fire, and the process to ask for a permit is.
It's not onerous.
It's not onerous.
And if anything, even if you don't qualify for, or you think you don't qualify, go to the website, because the ordinance will be posted on the burn permit website for you to review, and then you can say, hey, I checked the boxes, I'm totally fine. And as a villager and a neighbor, it's wise to do that.
All right, so I'd like to kind of go through this. So this is a complete rewrite. At this stage, we're just doing, I guess, an initial review. If we're having it close enough to a state, we'll take action later. We can consider having a first reading at our next meeting. So just to kind of go through it section by section, I'd like to do it sort of organized. Andy, you got any comments on the ordinance?
Do I?
Yeah.
No.
Dan? I mean, you were involved in it, so.
Yeah, I was
if you-
involved in it. I think Stuart gave a great summary, so I don't mean to belabor it, but my comments, I gave lots of comments that are already incorporated in it.
Yeah, I watched the several, this was several meetings. Not a huge output from the public at the public hearing, but the planning commission definitely vetted this on several occasions, and yeah, Dan had a lot of input in that. David?
Yeah, so 3072 definitions, campfire. I would like to strike or, insert a comma after warmth or entertaining period. So it would then read, a small not to exceed 4 feet in diameter controlled fire built for cooking, lighting, generating warmth or entertaining. In 307.4 general regulation .1, I want to clarify open burning of yard waste and so it would be open burning of yard waste and bonfires shall be.
One more time?
Yeah, 307.4.1.
Okay.
So open burning of yard waste and bonfires shall be constantly attended and supervised by a competent person of at least 18 years of age until the fire is extinguished and cold. The reason for that is similar to the burn permit that's limited to yard waste and bonfires. The idea that you have to be 18 years of age to have a campfire in your backyard, I think seems a bit onerous. Whereas I don't want to drop the age because that does seem appropriate for yard waste and bonfires. So I think we need to treat bonfires separate than campfires separate from yard waste and bonfires. So that's why I'm making that recommendation. Under 307.5.1, I'm proposing striking the open burning of yard waste shall not include logs, brush, branches, kindling wood, scrap wood, or wood pellets. That's duplicative because that's already captured in the definition of yard waste. None of those things would constitute yard waste. And then my last one is 307.6, so it would be 307.6.1 after the sentence, appropriate fuels for bonfires and branches, large logs, brush, scrap wood, and wood pallets, but not yard waste, period. I would then create a new section that would be 307.6.2, which then becomes appropriate fuels for campfires are kindling wood, branches, charcoal, small logs, but not yard waste. Those are kind of two separate things for what is appropriate versus what is excluded. I think just reads better to be separated, which would then change 307.6.2 to read 307.6.3.
Could you email us those
Yes.
changes? I think that would be really helpful because then we can get that over.
Yeah, I'll do it in a red line. so
Yep,
it's just
that would
right
be
there.
great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
I think that they
Yeah.
make sense. They were pretty
Yeah,
easy
yeah,
to follow.
right,
Yeah.
okay.
I like it.
I have no other changes. I support what David suggested.
All right, I have a couple. Just to keep Stuart for clarification.
Sure.
At first, 307.1.2, I wasn't sure why it was only within a building, but I think you covered now in open burning, where open burning is not anything through a stacked chimney. My concern was what we just approved at the Franklin
Yeah,
would be not considered open burning because it's through a chimney.
that's right.
So that works good. So what we're talking about in 307.1.3, in the section where it talks about like for heating, that's sort of like those lava rock devices, those are not regulated by this.
Right.
Perfect. In 307.3, after the first sentence, I was thinking maybe we should add a sentence, because I've had these dialogues with Bill Dinnan in the past. The fire department shall have the right to enter the property for purposes of inspecting fires for which a permit has or should have been issued. Want to make sure that there's no one's going to say that we don't have the ability to enter the property. So
No.
I want to make that in the ordinance, and it's strictly for the purpose of enforcement. Last comment, 307.5.5. It talks about when it should be extinguished at or before sunset. Could we add, for fires for the purposes of open burning of yard waste shall not commence before sunrise and shall be totally extinguished at or before sunset? And then, I guess this last one is just sort of a theoretical question, but I didn't go back and cross-reference the last version of the burn ordinance, but the setback requirements are bordering on eliminating open burning in the historic district.
Right, so.
And you would basically have like a 5-foot square in the dead center of your backyard if your lot met a lot of criteria in your neighbor's house and structures and.
So in the past, the neighbors that came to our meetings that had the most concern were in the historic district.
Against it.
And against it.
Okay.
Yeah, well, against their neighbors' light burning, mostly because, they'll have their windows open on the nice fall day.
No, absolutely, and I'm not saying that as an objection, it was more just of a comment, that what that essentially does, without essentially saying it, is coming close to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, I mean, if you feel that there's a number that meets, it better meets that need, it is just an update for council to make and doesn't need a revision by us to make that. But that's decide amongst yourselves if you think that needs to be expanded a little more. Ultimately, it's your approval that needs to meet
No, I
that.
think it's fine, I just,
Yeah.
I was just clarifying more.
Yeah.
Just making sure that you guys thought that through, and clearly it came to your.
Yeah, and that was actually the first go around when we proposed a burn ordinance a couple years ago. That's where we had most of our comments originally, and it died at council. That version did, but some of those things still kind of lingered.
No, I think you guys did a nice job, you streamlined it, I think it addressed our questions. I'll do the same, Meg, my couple
Thank
comments,
you.
I'll send you a red line.
Thank you.
John, you need to come up here, please.
Yeah, please.
I'm just wondering how this would affect if the FCA ever wanted to do a bonfire night for some reason.
So bonfires are defined as basically being built in a field or other large open area. You just have to come pull a permit and make sure you meet all these requirements and have a good source of extinguishment.
Right.
But yeah, that's where this whole problem came from, was the intention of bonfires was for the FCA. And what happened was residents were using a bonfire, which didn't require a permit, and said their fire in their backyard was a bonfire, not an open fire. And they were getting around a permit, so we needed to fix that. But we, in essence, fixed a whole bunch of other stuff, so.
Yeah, even
Really nice job, guys.
on FCA property during Memorial Day, the scouts retire flags, and it's a whole ceremony where we have a fire pit on the village, on the green over here, and we respectfully retire flags that members of the community, both Birmingham and Franklin, wish to retire. So it's a great opportunity we utilize as for scouts as well. So.
All right, excellent, so, what's everybody's pleasure? Do we want, I think that everybody understood the gist of the comments. We could, at this point, entertain a motion for a first reading, because it's usually between the first and second reading, we fine tune everything, so we can schedule the first reading for next month. The changes that David and I, and if anyone else has changes, send them to Meg.
Yep,
Can all get incorporated into a red line for next month.
absolutely,
And
yep.
do the first reading next month, and then from those changes, adopt something for the
Yes,
second one. So,
absolutely, that'll work for us.
all right,
Thank you.
again, planning commission, nice job. All right, so can I get a motion to schedule a first reading of the Section 307 regulations dealing with open burning?
So moved.
With the proposed
amendments.
What?
With the proposed
With proposed, correct, I'm sorry, with proposed changes to be heard at our next meeting.
So moved.
I have a second.
Yep, further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? All right, good job. Okay, now we're on to new business. Meg, you have a budget planning schedule you want to run by us?
I do, really quickly here. So in a coordination kind of with what we did this evening with our special meeting, I would like to get a couple more dates on the calendar. At least 2 more that would be special meetings that would give us time to focus on budget and answer specific questions. If after the first we're feeling comfortable and not needing the second, there is no harm in canceling that. I'd rather get it on the books though, in case we end up needing it. Now, these are just dates that I had coordinated with Plant Moran that work, but it is possible that none of you are available on that day, and that's okay. So we're just opening this up for conversation. My goal would be to leave where we have consensus for 2 additional dates that we could meet and discuss budget priorities.
Are you wanting to do it on separate dates or like we did today earlier on a council meeting?
I think the only way it works earlier on council is if we can get 2 hours. I think an hour and a half is just feels like we're rushed, and I want to have time to just do that. And so that's why I propose these Wednesdays. However, I'm absolutely not opposed to doing them before a meeting, but I would just want us to be here. We start at 4 if we were going to do
As long
that.
as the council's fine with it. we can-
So we can do that at our April meeting. Well, so let me pull this up. Let's adjust this on the fly here. Let's see. What if on our April 14th meeting, we have a special budget hearing, or special budget meeting beforehand that will replace our April 30th meeting? And we'll run it there? Or would you rather get rid of the April 2nd meeting? Add the 14th before the council and then keep the 30th? Because we won't have 2 council meetings before we're going to come and pass the budget.
I don't know. I'd like to see what works best for council. I don't mind these Wednesdays.
We could do one Monday, one Wednesday. We could do a Wednesday sometime or we could do a different day other than a council meeting, sometimes the first week of April, if the 2nd doesn't work. And then we could follow up, and our next one could be on Monday the 14th, which would be a council meeting day, and we could come in early. So does the 2nd, I know Daniel has a conflict with the 2nd. Does anyone else have a conflict with the 2nd?
The 2nd of April?
Yes.
That's HEC
At 5?
at 7.
Right, but these are scheduled from 5 to 7.
Okay, just making sure.
So I would propose changing the dates that you have here, keeping the Wednesday, April 2nd from 5 to 7, getting rid of that 30th and replacing it with Monday, April 14th from 4 to 6 with a council meeting running right after. And again, if we leave the 2nd and we don't think we need to meet on the 14th, we'll cancel that meeting.
Dan, can you should we try to do 2 that we can all make? Like scratch the 2nd since Dan can't make it?
You can,
And do the
that's up to
14th
you
and
guys.
30th, Dan?
I don't want to wait till the 14th and the 30th.
No.
That is the only concern I have. It doesn't give me a lot of time to actually
Yeah.
make changes and
Yeah.
Based on what-
incorporate things.
Yeah, I don't mind if people go ahead without me. I'm just gonna be out of town.
And
on the second.
I went and read it. It says by the first Monday in May, it only has to be proposed. It doesn't say done. If you read the exact language, it says, it's implying a draft has to be ready by that date. It doesn't have to be adopted. But I think that waiting until the 14th and 30th might be too long. So
Agreed. I think,
another date during that week that works for anyone, or were you just choosing Wednesdays?
or no, we could do a different date during that week. We could also move to the next week. We could do that 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th of April, somewhere in there. But if you do that, you're gonna have a couple of days between your budget meetings. So if we make big changes, then I won't have a ton of time to get them incorporated.
Can we do like a doodle poll, or do we have to do this today?
I'd really like to get
Okay.
these scheduled.
Is the 2nd and the 14th, the 7 o'clock meetings that follow, does that require village staff to be there? 'Cause it would be nice
Yeah,
if,
it
so you're
does.
accounting for that.
It does. I wasn't, but yes, it does. So the 2nd is proposed at night when we have HGC. I'm here and so is Dana for HGC.
Then I would like to keep it for them.
Yeah. And it's not gonna be possible to have everyone here at every one of these, and these are still nothing that, anything is being finalized. I think the 2nd and 14th are,
Yeah, I think they're fine.
are real good dates.
And knowing that Daniel will be absent, I'll make sure that we circle up before you leave, Dan, and I have a good understanding of some of your priorities, and I'll make sure that I circle back with good recap and keep you informed of what happens there.
That'll be fine.
So, if that works for everyone, then if we could get,
Do those get recorded?
yes.
All right, so we'll get recorded.
Yep. So we would have Wednesday, April 2nd from 5 to 7, and then we would have Monday, April 14th from 4 to 6.
I just realized I can't make the 14th either, by the way, but that's okay.
Okay.
That's all right, we'll save you extra special time.
Yeah.
When we're
Yeah.
talking during
It'll be okay.
discussion.
And really, leading up to these meetings, I know I've reiterated this a couple of times, but please, while you're thinking about the budget, if you have a random question, if you have something you want me to look at, it's a lot easier for you to shoot me an email and give me some time to get that done than to rattle it off. And we're in busy season of budget, so feel free to email me with questions. When I get you information, I'll distribute it to everybody so they have that, but that helps us keep these conversations moving and really use that time effectively. So I'm here, open to talk about it, send me an email, swing by, and we can keep talking about the budget there. Okay, thank you.
Excellent. All right, next is consider approval of Metro Act bilateral permit to Extenet System LLC, which is a new Extenet application. Meg, you want to fill us in? on
Absolutely.
what we're asking this for?
So we've seen some Extenet applications earlier in this year come through, the one that we have before us today. Same company that we had granted these to previously, but the scope of work was just in a little bit of a different area. They're expanding fiber optic cables that should help improve service over there. So what you have in front of you is a pretty standard agreement. The right-of-way, the bilateral form that you see here is governed under the Metro Act. It is our responsibility to go ahead and take in these permits and to prepare them. But if there is no, maybe Peter can help me with the
Sure.
exact language on that.
Yeah, so the Michigan Public Service Commission already pre-populates an agreement in bilateral form, and we just take it, extrapolate data, and fill it in. So everything is driven by the Michigan Public Service Commission. Extenet does do quite a bit of work in the area, and I took a look in my previous files. Extenet had done work for AT&T and I believe T-Mobile, but this one was for DT, and it was east of Inkster on Fairgrove Avenue. I didn't see any prior permits for it, so we just decided to prepare a new one. And it's under the Metro Act. The Metro Act is kind of ambiguous. It just says that a municipality may not unreasonably deny such a request.
But you said this was a DTE.
No, it's Extenet.
Extenet, but
Extenet's doing it for DTE.
that was our understanding.
I,
Yeah, DTE, secondary power source, so.
okay, I just want to jump in real quick. So again, given our history here, I just want to understand, if you look on, there's not a page number attached to it, but if you go to Exhibit B, bond, then you go to the map, under project name, it's small cell network. Same thing, that if you go to the third drawing, it says 5G antenna site, and then again, on that map, it says location of Extenet antenna pole. So all of these things seem to indicate that we're dealing with another small cell node. And I guess my other question would be, what is under the law, our ability, how far can we move the pole or request move?
75 feet.
Because logically, like this is, the location of this is that new construction right off of Inkster. and the new construction is gonna have a brand new pole in its front yard. Are we able to move that across this, can we open up dialogue to be able to move it across the street on the side of the golf course, outside of the fence? It seems like that would have a lower visual impact on our residents.
My understanding, looking at this application, was that it would be in a DTE trench, and it would be dug underground, which implies the Metro Act. I'm not an engineer. It looks like Stu just stepped up. Do you know more than I do about this?
I don't. I was going to ask if this is above ground, why it should have come to planning for application approval, right? Or,
David, where were you seeing that you were getting the idea that this was a small node?
Yeah, so if you look in the, I'll just hold it up for you. Right there.
Oh, okay.
David.
See where David?
No, I see that, but I've lived by that 5 times a day. They installed like 4 new poles along Inkster Road. Are you sure that's not one that's already been installed and it's not part of this permit?
No, because
This is
it's,
a new one?
yeah.
Because you live right, you live right there. This is a new one they're proposing here, so there's the new one, it's scenic, that they put in, and there's a new one, I believe, 2 new ones on the other side of Inkster.
My name's Rick David, 27201 Wellington. This is, according to the maps, they provided a small cell tower. The trenching is from the DTE transformer that they put on that property. So they're gonna trench the line, the power from the transformer near Wellington, all the way to Inkster, and then put a pole right there on the property. And there's nothing, the map shows a bunch of trees in that area. There's no trees there. They're gone.
Oh.
It's totally barren. There's a pond and then that's it.
Is this is in the Fairgrove right away or in the Inkster right away?
I think it's the Inkster right away.
Which isn't ours.
Well, that's what it looks like. Well, I don't know which way they measured it. Yeah, if it's not, I was gonna ask that question, if it's the Inkster road away. And they've done a lot of work, as you said earlier today, on that Inkster Road, dropping fiber across the street on the golf course side.
Right.
And I was, if I was the owner of that property, building a home, and next thing you know, they put a pole there, when they could go across the street. And originally, when T-Mobile or ExteNet put the proposals out to this, they showed 3 towers along Inkster on the golf course side of the road.
Right, they did.
There was always on that side, and all of a sudden, this one shows up on the other side, and it's gonna stick out like a sore thumb for that homeowner.
And for the
Is there
village.
is there an existing utility pole at the end of that, or on Fairgrove?
No, Peter, they dropped a on-ground transformer when they did this construction.
Okay.
So you see there, I don't know if you see the driveway, there's a long driveway off of Fairgrove up to the front of the house to these, I guess I'll call it the west side of that drive, closer to Wellington, they dropped a 3-foot transformer on the ground, which is they're showing the trenching from that transformer. There's no poles there. They buried the electrical line to the house now that they're building. It's all buried. There's nothing over there. It's all empty.
I guess we need more information.
Yeah.
Usually they include a utility pole or their measurements. I didn't see any of this, but it
But
says.
it does say pole. You'll see it actually says pole.
Yeah, but they usually,
I know, yeah,
but they usually include some type of utility pole dimension.
right.
I think we have enough time under the shot clock, under both the Metro Act and small cell, so I can obtain this, but I misunderstood this to be underground fiber optics. And it, arguably, it is ambiguous as to what they're.
I just want to protect that homeowner, He's not even a resident yet and already going to do something there that will really diminish his property in the village. It's an entranceway to the village, and you're going to see this pole sitting there.
Thank you for being vigilant.
So what are we being asked to do right now?
I think that it probably needs to be tabled. Peter and I
For a
will
month, yeah.
talk to Extenet and see if we can, because this is also different than the understandings that I had from.
Well, it's just, their
initial-
application isn't clear what they're asking to install.
Yep.
Asking to install an underground trench Or are they also asking to install a pole with a note on it?
That's the main question that I have. You know, initially this was presented where they weren't even sure if they were gonna need to pull a permit or not, and we were doing due diligence to show that. So there's clearly a breakdown in communication between the plans that they've presented and the discussions we've been having. We have plenty of time. I think it's probably best that we just, you know, we've reviewed it at this point. We have some follow-up questions. Peter and I will meet with Tim Asta from Extranet's representative and get some clarification on those.
Yeah, the application, as Dana pointed out, does say DT utility trench. I understood that to mean they were doing fiber optic
In the trench,
in the
yeah.
utility trench. But we'll get more information. It is very vague.
And Exonet knows that we're in the process of amending our small cell node ordinance, so.
Yeah, sometimes
it seems
right
weird
hand-
that they would be trying to sneak one in.
Sometimes right hand and left hand don't speak.
Yeah, that's not.
And I will say, the contact that we have from Exnet is different than one that we've been working on others. It's my understanding that he just helps prepare the permit, so it is possible that they haven't communicated that to each other. But yes, as the permit shows, it was just the trenching there, so installation of pole is not indicated on these plans per se with the dimensions and things we'd like to see. So I think we table this. Peter and I will have a meeting with Tim Asta, the Exnet representative, and see what we can do to flush out some more of those details.
All right, so let's bring it back next month.
Yep.
Item C, this is something I think that Meg is bringing forward. Consider moving council meetings to Franklin Community Church.
I've been asked by some council members to look at this proposal and see if it would be a possibility. Obviously, this room has an obstacle. I mean, look at the way we're filling the table and we're
think Mike would be
missing
here.
Mike from this space.
Well, he's already weighed in, I know anything.
And, yeah,
He doesn't
so, there's a lot of discussion back and forth about if this room really fits the needs of the community. It doesn't take very many community members to get here and really overpower the room. There isn't a lot of parking here. It's also another obstacle there. Now, having them at the church, there's a cost associated with that, and there's also a barrier of figuring out if we're going to be able to get a second set of audio-visual equipment, or if we're going, video equipment, or if we're gonna be physically moving this back and forth like we had seen during COVID. So, I explored this and put this on your agenda tonight because this was brought to me by council members looking at me to explore the possibility of moving them over to the community church. They can be a little more accessible, there is more parking, you know, you would have more room there. From an administrative perspective, it's, you know, it's sometimes hard to accommodate a group in this space, and it will be a challenge in a different way to accommodate like moving equipment back and forth. So this really is a council decision and discussion. Not everyone is in support of it. I've heard that in the past when we had meetings over at the church that the acoustics weren't well for the recordings. I can say that, you know, if we were making it more of a permanent decision, those little tweaks and tailors are probably something that we could work out with the cable board. We've talked to the cable board about it. It could be a possibility to get some granting and have a separate set of equipment over there. But if it's not possible, they're here to help us and to accommodate that. Of course, it just takes more of their time. So we have to be considering that as well. So for me, I can see benefits to meetings in either spot. And I was asked to investigate this and kind of bring it to you guys for discussion.
It also would give more flexibility for meetings in this space too, for committee meetings, right? So, I mean,
Not really, because we wouldn't have anyone in this building when my staff isn't here. My staff attends a council meeting.
Oh, but like we could have committee meetings here if we needed to. Still, like this doesn't exclude us from having meetings, right? Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
That's
And
what
like, we would keep, the plan, or what I have here is to keep all the other committee meetings as normal.
Oh, that's what I was gonna ask. So I was just doing the
They draw a much
calculation.
smaller crowd, and since there is a cost associated, it is going to be staff time to be moving things back and forth. Planning and HDC, the occasional ZDA, I think they're well accommodated in this space. It's really, council, you guys not having space, and just when we have members of the public here, you know.
So it would be roughly 3,000 a year.
Yes.
Just for council meetings, because I was doing an estimate of like 4 zoning board meetings, 10, okay.
Yep.
So $3,000 a year.
And
essentially.
we might be able to negotiate that down a little. 250 is the cost that we've had in the past. Now, I will say the church is super interested in us coming over there. They're looking for ways to play a role as a community center to get people more comfortable with coming over there. They've been really taking an initiative to integrate into Village. They're a part of Main Street. They've been going to the economic collaborative meeting. So the church, when we brought this up originally, had a group in there. They said, we'll move them. So if cost was a barrier, I definitely think that they might be open to some sort of discussion there. So.
All right, thanks.
Would they share any of the cost of the AV equipment if it benefited them in any way?
It probably wouldn't because it would come through the cable board, and so we subscribe to the cable board. We pay very specific dues there, so that equipment would have to be ours. And actually, we don't even operate it. The cable board representatives do, so I don't see that they probably wouldn't be able to use
I
that.
think that would be the first thing to vet out is the practicality of getting a second set, because I know that pack it up from here.
Is
move
a
it over
lot.
there,
So
take
we.
it down is,
We've had preliminary discussions about that. I definitely think that it's something that we could get a grant for. It probably would be a situation, and Peter actually serves as the representative for the cable board too, as
Rick
the
can sell
attorney
everything.
and Rick. So I think that it could be possible to get that, but it wouldn't be immediate. The first couple of meetings, we'd be moving stuff back and forth, for sure.
I'm not wild about the idea of the staff lugging stuff. I just
I'm not
really,
really either.
I mean, with the pressure you've talked about already on staff time, it just seems like I'm not sure why, it doesn't make sense to me. The other thing that's a problem over in the church is the acoustics are so bad, people cannot hear each other in that room.
well, we would have to set it up different. We couldn't do it with everybody scattered around the room,
Yeah.
sitting in the
Yeah.
circular tables,
Yeah.
with the cable board way in the back. We'd have
Agreed.
to set up chairs in a
Yeah.
row, condense the room forward, move forward where the cable board sets up.
Agreed. And if it was something we were doing more regularly, would have a plan to do that, because the way we
Yeah.
had meetings over in COVID, those were really spaced out. They could be hard to hear
It was
over
hard to
there.
hear.
Yep.
Yeah. So I would support investigating a grant opportunity for equipment to alleviate that issue, but
Do we have to make a motion before we start talking about it? Or-
technically, yep, we should.
Okay. I'll move to approve moving the council meetings to Franklin Community Church.
I'll second that.
Hold on.
So now we can discuss.
I'm still
Now we can
opposed.
discuss. Yeah, I'm just saying, I just want to be official of
We don't
discussing
have to
it.
have a motion on the table to have a discussion on anything.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure we're quite ready to approve a move to the
Nope.
church.
And that's okay. I mean, like I said, this was direction I was given by some council members. This is appropriate venue for you guys to sit and talk about it. Sounds like we had some deliberation. I mean, if we're not, I just need to know, like, what your next steps, what are we expecting from staff? Would we like to further explore a grant opportunity?
Vet out the equipment issue,
Okay,
because that's the biggest burden on you guys. And Angelina pointed out, the cost doesn't seem prohibitive.
no,
And
no,
have more space in a condensed way would certainly be helpful, so that the concept is there. Let's vet out that issue
okay,
and bring it back as soon as you have an answer to that.
all right.
And the church, we have had council meetings there when there's been an issue that we know a lot of people are coming to talk about. I would not want to preclude that opportunity at all. I think you're talking about regular council.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, my thoughts on it, highly support it. I think that this is a tight space for us. It provides an opportunity where we don't have the overcrowding, we have better parking. The fact that the community church supports it is just additional reasons why. Not only is it supporting their cause of making it less intimidating to go into the building, but every dollar spent is something that benefits one of the organizations and buildings within our community. So I'm fully on board of it. If we're not ready to take a vote on it for additional deliberation, totally fine with that, but I do think that we want to act with urgency. not lose track of it. Like, just understanding as far as, how long do we anticipate that it will take to apply and receive a grant, so that we can kind of have ETAs on
Should we
stuff.
take a vote on it? Because then you guys are expending village resources on something that we don't know if we're gonna go forward for. So I feel like take a vote on it, because if that avenue doesn't work and we don't get that grant, but we've approved it, then we start looking at other solutions.
That's definitely up to you guys. I think that I hear you on the urgency thing, and while I wouldn't have a grant worked out by next meeting, I would have a timeline, probably a better idea of that. So maybe I would be, we could always, we have this proposal, we know this amount of facts, we could bring it back at the next meeting, and when we have more information about obtaining a grant, and then maybe at that point we take a vote. I don't know. It's, that would definitely be a council decision. I can see it going either way. Do you have any
No,
input on that?
there's a motion on the table. You guys can amend that. The cable board meets every 2 months, I believe. Is that right, Mr. David? So I think we have a meeting coming up in March 18th, if I recall correctly. So it could be, it's kind of aggressive to move. Is it next week? I'm sorry, it's next week, not the 18th. So I don't know if that's enough time for Meg to get her ducks in a row to prepare something for that meeting, but, and it doesn't have to be permanent, the move. It could be once every other month, as needed, as required, in the summer, whatever you guys want. The charter allows the charter says that it can be done wherever you decide by resolution or ordinance, and the ordinance says this basically the same thing.
Do we have to sign a contract with the church, or if it doesn't work out, we can always come back?
We could always do that. Church is being super flexible with this. Honestly, when I brought the idea to them knowing they had a conflict already, they instantly changed the conflict and made other arrangements. They seem to have interest in us coming over. I would not be looking at any kind of contract solution, for sure. I would want us to always be able to gather back in our space if we needed to.
I think just this, is part of the goal of getting residents more engaged, hearing feedback from them, creating spaces for them to feel heard, bringing businesses and community centers into the fold when it comes to village business. And I don't go to the community church. I mean, my kids go there, but to worship, I don't go there. But every time I do go there, I see things that I participate in because I'm walking into the building. And I think they put a lot of time and effort into intentionally including the community. And I know so many residents that go there. All my kids have gone there. I think it's a phenomenal way to show them that we appreciate their partnership. And it's not moving every single meeting. It's just the ones that are the larger meetings, which is the council meetings. I feel completely uncomfortable sitting up here shoulder to shoulder with people. And I think that Mike gets antsy walking back and forth. I don't have a place to spread out with both left-handed. Between all of our blueprints, even at meetings, I can't cross-reference things. It's just really not conducive to being diligent in policymaking. And so I see it as a total win-win across the board. I'd like to take a vote on it since we have a motion a second.
Yeah, I support it as well. I think as members of the democracy here, we want to be responsive to the needs of the community and having people participate. And I remember my first council meeting here, it was literally standing room only, just as one example. So I wonder how many people might want to come, but they don't want to come and sit in here where they don't feel like there's even a place for them.
I can definitely hear that.
All right, well, there's a fairly generic motion and a second on the table. The motion on the table is to move our meetings to the Franklin Church. Doesn't have a start time, doesn't have an end time. And theoretically, that means next month we're at the Franklin Church. So be careful what you wish for.
I can rephrase my motion so it's more detailed.
Yeah, I mean, are we?
Yeah, I'm
ready
not
to
prepared
make
to
the
move for
Or are we
April.
ready to
Can we
further the dialogue?
Well, can I say, make a motion to move council meetings to Franklin Community Church to 6 o'clock on the, second Monday of the month, or when staff is able to move the equipment. Like, I don't have to say by April 21st. We can
No.
approve the move, and then it could take 2 months for us to actually get over there.
We could do that. You could make a motion that suggests moving the meetings to the church starting in May, pending conversations with the cable board on accessibility of technology. Like if we have the ability to get a grant or not. And then that way we could keep making progress.
Does it have to be time bound, or can we say, move the meetings to the Franklin Church pending discussions with the cable board?
If we were gonna not make it time bound, I would rather just table it to the next meeting. I think if we're going to have a motion, we should have a time on it.
Why don't we just move it to the next meeting, because you're meeting with the cable board next week?
Yeah.
Will you be able to bring this up? Was their agenda already set?
Their agenda, I'm sure, is set, and my conversations are gonna happen outside of the cable board initially. I'm gonna call and talk to Carrie about this situation. I had already talked to Carrie about some grant funding, so I'm gonna call and talk to her about that.
Rick David, member of the Cable Board, and I'll talk to the treasurer about this, who is Rick David. Our meeting is, as Peter said, is next week, and then we meet again on May 21st. The real question will be talking to the staff at the BACB, the Birmingham Area Cable Commission,
We've done that.
the community TV folks, and get a quote on what the equipment would be. And then you would go then, as a body, you would go before our subcommittee to talk about your need to have additional equipment installed. And then they would go to the full board, which will probably be on the 21st of May, with the request for a grant. They would grant it, and then they'd have to go order the equipment and schedule all that process, work with the church to get it installed and do it, and do that kind of thing. So I don't think you ought to be moving equipment that's, technical equipment back and forth. I'd like to let the process go through. I think they'll look I'll have to look back at how much money was invested in this installation 3-4 years ago, and look at that aspect, because to be honest with you, Franklin's gotten a lot of revenue from the board lately, and sometimes they say, well, how come the smallest community in the group gets a lot of the money? But that's their problem. We're going to ask for whatever we can get. But I would ask that you not put a May meeting timeframe. We want to get this done right and get the equipment installed and all that kind of thing. And it won't be conceivably done until May.
Absent the grant, though, we can still move forward with
Correct.
this. So I would actually like to have this approval so we can build it into the budget, because I don't see,
Even without the budget, you can move equipment.
You can, okay, that's why I just didn't know.
That's how we've always done it before, but it is a very tedious task. It does kind of shut our office down at about 2:30, 3 o'clock on a Monday to start moving everything over, because it's not just the transport, then you gotta hook up everything, we gotta tape down wires, you gotta do all the sound check. So it is definitely moving equipment while possible is a staff time commitment, 100%.
And to add another wrinkle, I don't know if anything is permanently installed, but we probably need the church's authority if something was going to be screwed in or bolted in and stuff.
And plus, though, I also remind you that our next, I don't know if the next board meeting, but maybe by the main board meeting, we will, as a cable board, be reimbursing or returning back some unspent funds for this year to all the communities. Now, we haven't determined the amount yet, but we take the money in. We think it's 40% of what you get in fees, go to the cable board. We go and fund our projects, fund the public access channels, and every year, once our budget is audited and our revenues are audited, everything is done, we determine amount of rebates we're going to give to the community. So there'll be some money coming back for that.
To give you an idea, our allocation was about $60,000 last year.
That's awesome.
For
The cable board.
That you pay to the board.
So we're not getting all of that back,
No,
but
no,
when Rick is talking,
Yeah.
just to put it into perspective of what we do put over there, it's about that amount.
Yep.
So can we make a non-time bound motion and then just let you guys work through the process, because we don't really need to be involved unless there's a decision that needs to be made? Because it seems like details you guys have to do behind the scenes stuff, and
I think a motion to allow or grant staff to move forward with considering the move to the church hall would be sufficient.
Could you say that again?
Yeah, a motion to approve staff to make preparations and apply for grants and what is necessary to move to the church grounds for village commission meetings.
Yeah, I support that with the inclusion, granted, there's already a motion on the floor, but I would support what you're saying with the inclusion that to submit the application on the May 23rd meeting. 21st meeting.
Have the village administrator proceed with the grant request.
Yeah.
We'll try to speed it up if we can.
So we're already considering this, so then why don't we do a motion to approve it? And then in the motion, we can give the administrator and the staff the authority to pursue grants and preparation for the move.
My personal feeling is we're making an uneducated decision there, right? Like, we don't know what the ultimate decision of the grant would be, and it may influence people's decisions and how they'd vote for moving over to the church, right? So that's why I'm saying I would rather go at the direction of taking action up to May 21st, coming back with understanding whether or not we're going to receive a grant, and then if we receive it, wonderful. If we don't, then it's a different set of facts to consider.
Okay. So, we have a motion and a second, unless
David, can I speak?
oh, sure, John.
Yeah. John Simon, 30320 King Card. I disagree with most of you up here. I think this room is Franklin. This has an ambience that I feel very comfortable with. You go over there into that big rec hall, it's spread out and there's no character to it. It's very ugly. And I think that this room has served us well for a number of years. If you can't spread out, well, I'm sorry. I mean, everybody else has been doing it and not complaining. So I think that you should consider the ambience. This is Franklin Village, and this looks like Franklin Village, whereas the church looks like a rec hall. And I think it's ugly.
Thanks, John. So, we have a motion and a second, unless anybody's changing the motion, I'm gonna,
I'd like to hear the motion again, please.
Okay, the only thing, okay, to Trustee Sally's point, I don't want the village to commit time and resources to something that we're not gonna pursue, because they have stressed that over and over again, like, they do not have time to explore projects and not see them to fruition. So, keeping that in mind, I don't want this to be another, let's invest 30 hours of their time, and then we're gonna decide, no, because we don't get the grant for, I don't know, whatever, we don't even know how much it's gonna cost. So, or if there's even a grant available, or if, I mean, it's just like, again, it's just wasting their resources, and I hate having them squirrel around. Like, I don't like that myself, and I don't wanna project that onto someone else. So I feel like if we can say, like, the council would like this done, but we would like a proposal to come back to us, right? We're not signing a contract, we're not expending funds, but we are telling them, this is the direction we want to move in. Please prepare the grant, please do the market research, and come back to us with a proposal and cost. I think like that is, then they can set that as a priority, and it not be like a thought or a passing idea.
It feels like you're both saying the same thing to me, though. I mean, like, there might be some slight
Come to our
nuance,
dinner
but I
table.
think- I mean, I don't mean to mediate, but it feels like you're both on the same side here, and we're arguing just to argue.
So the material difference for me is that I'm not asking for an affirmative vote for moving to the village, or moving to the community church, right? So I'm saying to provide distinct direction to the village administration to prepare and organize kind of the logistics to submit a proposal to the broadcast board, not separate that from the official approval to move to the church, yeah.
Angelina, is your concern that we would have staff do something, and then when it comes back for formal approval, the majority of us won't approve it, and then we've wasted their time? I mean, we can accomplish things in simple things like a straw poll. I haven't heard one of us generally say we don't support the idea.
Or are you
We just
saying
need more
if the
information.
if we don't get the grant, is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
We'll
it almost
spend
seems
time-
like this is predicate on us obtaining the grant. And I don't want us to think there's only a single
I don't know
solution.
if it's predicated on obtaining the grant. Part of this vetting out process is to find out what a whole set of equipment will be. Rick can use this setup as sort of a baseline, obviously having to add to that since things have gone up, but that will give us an idea of how much we would have to be asking the cable board for, and Rick, being the treasurer of the cable board, would have an idea whether he thinks another $60,000 ask for the village of Franklin within 3 years of a prior $60,000 ask for the same thing is gonna sell very well at the 5 or 6 communities included in the cable board. So, it is a big piece of it, but if your concern is whether or not you think there's general support on council, I think there's general support. I don't have a problem with the idea, but I'm not, the motion that's on the table was very simple. It was motion to move village council meetings to the church. That was it. That's like, as if we're starting next Monday. I mean.
Okay, I'll change it. I'll withdraw my motion.
Now, if you want to ask, if your concern is you want to make sure there's a majority of us that support having the council spend the time and effort, because I would not, if I didn't support the move, support wasting Meg's and Susan's and Dana's time. So I think if you were to make the motion to instruct council to vet this out, or staff to vet this out, and that motion passed, be safe to say that if the motion came back with favorable information, that will probably be successful. But to say you want to know that we're going to do it before we investigate it, that's usually not how things work. We all respect their time, but this is what they do, and this is a big deal, and if they have to vet it out and for some reason it doesn't end up working, that's part of the process. You can't approve it ahead of time, and then what? If we don't get good information, a motion to unwind everything we just did?
I mean, if we don't procure another set of equipment and it requires, you know, closing at Monday or limiting services, you know, Monday at 3 o'clock of the council meetings, I would still approve it. Like,
Okay, well,
so that's what
something
I'm
we need to
saying.
bring
Like,
back.
I don't want it to be the only option is if we have enough money to procure an entire equipment, second set of equipment, because I feel like the sacrifice of limiting services at 3 o'clock on the day of council meetings are worth the reward of getting people comfortable coming to council meetings, hearing their feedback, improving community engagement. So like, to Mike's point, like, that was what I'm just saying, like, I don't want it to be like, the solution doesn't work, then you guys are wasting your time. I'm very cognizant of your time and resources is what I'm trying to say.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. I think that what we can go ahead and commit to right now is we'll vet through the equipment issue. How much is it gonna cost? What funding is available? And what we can also bring to the next council meeting in addition are possible other solutions if funding isn't available. And then at our April meeting, we can kind of talk through the research that I've done so far, knowing that it wouldn't be until May 21st if we were able to get a grant that it would go through. So we'll talk about it in April. We'll say, you know, this is what we learned that might be feasible with a grant. Here would be other options if the grant isn't feasible. Then we work forward on that. We try and, you know, say the grant is feasible. So we apply for one and we hear it out on the 21st. Then we're bringing it back to you right at the beginning of June and making a plan moving forward.
Okay, so I'll reword my motion. I move to change the location of the council meetings to the Franklin community, or to direct the staff to research solutions for moving the council meetings to Franklin Community Church at 6 o'clock on the second Monday of every month.
Second. Okay. Any further discussion?
Attorney brain's going off that probably want to strike that second Monday of every month to give us flexibility, right? We don't need to define the date in which it's going to be termed, if that's not.
The charter says it's the second Monday of each month, so it's inherent that.
Yeah, I mean, moving council meetings means we're moving it on the second.
Oh, because you're saying if it falls on like Christmas or
Correct.
something? Okay.
Well,
Okay,
Yes.
the motion is only to, again, I don't understand why we needed dates on the motion anyways. The motion only needs to be to direct council, direct staff to investigate.
I like it.
Really all we need to ask them to do. I
I'll
don't even,
strike my motion, we'll just go with yours. Right?
I move that we direct our staff to investigate what will entail costs, logistics, everything, to move our meetings in the future to the Franklin Community Church.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Alright, sold. I think generally, other than maybe Mike, but I think generally the idea is a sound one. I think we all support it, and I think no one's really comfortable in this, and John's comments are valid, but we have had meetings there, so it isn't like it's some unique concept, and as much as this is quaint and awesome, if you went to any other community and went to their governmental room, it's not a quaint little thing. It's a big open room with chairs and a desk, and it's designed to serve one purpose and one purpose only, have effective meetings. And I'm not so sure how effective this is. Everything. Cars on a busy day when we have an important item. I guarantee you there's 10 residents pull up, see the parking lot jam, realize they have to park at the church anyways, and drive away. There's days I get here and it looks like that, and I want to drive away. So, the idea is definitely needed, and I don't think any of us here are against the general concept if it really can accommodate everything we're trying to do here. All right, now, the more important part of our meeting, we are currently operating with two of our commissions, the Planning Commission and the Zoning Board of Appeals, short on members. We, for almost 2 months now, had sent out postings asking for applicants to apply for either a zoning board of appeals position, a planning commission position, or just either anything that is available. And we have, I have that we've received 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 applications, but David's telling me that a 7th came in that I'm not.
Did you have the 7th, Dana?
I sent one out from Daniel, I did check she sent it on March the 5th, and I went ahead and I sent it out to the council.
Yeah, we received it.
Mm-hmm. Did you call these people, tell them to come?
Yeah, because I was told this was just a discussion. Because when it was time for voting, I was going to let them know when to come.
Aren't we voting today?
Well,
It was just listed as a discussion.
It was supposed to be appointments.
All right, well, let's start with this.
we can,
Of the applicants, if you're here that can be considered for one of the positions, you just raise your hand so we have a head count. So, yeah, so Quincy, I know John, I know Jeremy, and you, Michelle?
Yes.
Okay. So, it's just the new person that isn't here, this Danielle. And when did her application come in?
when did you say, Dana, the
I sent
5th?
it on the 5th. She mailed, I don't know if she mailed it the day before at night, but when I saw it, I went
Which
ahead
would have
and-
been last Wednesday. So that definitely would have been after the cutoff to have the time to review
All right,
them
well-
for the meeting.
First of all, before we take any action, we have 4 of those people here, so I'll start with, and we can start with, we'll just go in order. John, if any of you would want to come up, introduce yourselves to us, be available for any questions we have. We have openings on the Zoning Board of Appeals and the Planning Commission, so if you, when you come up, if you want to let us know whether you're kind of open to either, or whether you are here for, you prefer one over the other, that would also sort of be helpful. So, John, you want to go first?
Once again, John Simon, 30320 King Carden. I would like to consider being on the zoning board. I've lived in Franklin 50 54 years now, and I've got a real feeling for the character of the village, and I want to try to maintain that character, and I think that I would do a good job on the board.
Okay,
Yeah.
and you prefer the ZBA?
Zoning,
You prefer
yeah.
being on the ZBA?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Jeremy?
Hello, thank you for having me. Jeremy Werner, 26985 Crestwood Drive, resident since 2019, but been playing baseball here since probably 6 years old. So really love the community. I think similar to your remarks, want to see it really thrive. I think there's a very careful balance, right, of keeping Franklin what it is, but also try to modernize and make it safe for, like, my kids. I have a 4-year-old and a 15-month-old, so want to help. Open to both the ZBA and the Planning Commission, but yeah, want to try to help you guys.
Awesome, glad to see you getting involved.
Yes.
You carry their spot?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Michelle?
Hello,
Hi there.
my name is Michelle. 32860 Watley is our address. My husband and I have been there since 2017, and just a quick background, we both grew up in Bloomfield, and when we were considering where to live, we chose Franklin for a number of reasons. We knew we wanted to sort of make a permanent place here. We love that it's a bit of an oasis amongst Oakland County in many ways at the surrounding communities. Lots of tree cover, beautiful sprawling lots, uniqueness, and a historic village, of course. We have 2 daughters, a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old. Both have gone through Franklin Preschool and are now, my oldest is now at West Maple Kindergarten. And over the years that we've been here, I've had a chance to get to know other families and residents in the area. And it's become increasingly important for me to want to be involved in the community where my kids are going to grow up. And yeah, I'm interested in the zoning board, so I think that would probably best fit with my current time constraints and interests. So I hope to be considered. Thanks.
Thank you.
Quincy?
All right, I am Quincy Harrison, 30795 Adair Court. I haven't been here quite 50 years, but 2013, so I'm coming on 12 years. Basically raising a hobby farm, 4 kids, 2 dogs, and 4 chickens there. So we are having a good time. We are very busy, so I've been on the ZBA for maybe a couple of years almost now. Very, very much enjoyed it. With my background as an attorney, I have interest in doing planning. I write very specialized legal documents as a patent attorney, never the same thing twice, otherwise it wouldn't be a new patent. So I have lots of different background in legal writing, legal understanding, various litigation enforcements with technical writing basically based on patents and people have written, and taking very complicated ideas and making them simple that hopefully people can enforce. I know sometimes that can be a challenge. You come up with great ordinances, and then when they come to enforce them, they're not exactly sure how to do it. So I hope I can apply some of that. But that's all about me. If you have any questions, otherwise I'll grab a seat. But
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Not of Quincy, but if Quincy were to move from ZBA to
I don't
planning.
cause a problem.
Yeah, well now, if we have 2 vacancies to fill, could we select from this group of candidates? Or do we have to repost? Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that we'll probably we'll do first. We'll fill planning first, and then we'll go from there. We also received an application from Brian Rickoff, who is an existing ZBA alternate, who's now asking to move up to sit on the ZBA itself. We received an application from Natalia Schub for either of the positions. Brian is asking to be on the ZBA specifically, and then I apologize, I missed Danielle's. Was Danielle specific on what she was looking to do? She was looking to be on planning. Okay. And she's about the same here. So what is council's druthers. Do you want to start making appointments today? I mean, we have enough people here to fill the seats that are open.
I'm conscious these have been open a while, but I'm also conscious that, was Danielle given the opportunity to come and speak on her behalf? Did she know this was happening tonight? Or whomever?
What was happening there, I just thought it was
Yeah.
just a discussion.
So that's-
I
that's-
would have sent out communication to all the applicants to make sure that they were aware to be here so they can give their spiel on being added to the board.
The
So
only
they were
thing is
given
that Danielle's application would have been received after we have the guidelines that have a deadline to receive them for council to have the appropriate time to review it, and Danielle's would have come in after the rest of them.
So the other people were given the opportunity to appear here tonight, are not here, correct? I just want to make sure I'm understanding.
But Danielle, we
Not
didn't
Danielle,
ask
not Danielle,
Danielle.
the-
Everyone else is here besides Natalia
And Brian.
and Brian.
I also have a, I guess, concern with there not being a deadline on the posting. And I remember last.
There is, 7 days before our meeting.
That was in print? I'm just.
We've had voting guidelines we've now used for like the last 5 or 6 appointments. And they've all pretty much so been designed so that 7 days before our meeting, we all have ample time to reach out to all the applicants if we want to speak to them and speak to them. And what was happening was we were getting applications still trickling in the day before the meeting, and nobody got a chance to speak to that person. And should someone who, got their application in after the deadline be considered versus someone who got their name in on time for the deadline? And
I'm just making the note that the actual posting itself did not have a deadline, and that we haven't been following the process to the letter of the policy. And so when we deviate from the process, there is a slippery slope of like, are we gonna continue to deviate? That's all I would like to say. And last meeting, we did ask if there was a deadline, and it was saying, nope, you can just send in your application. So all I'm saying, again, this is just process and communication, that I just want to be consistent with messaging. And I know that people here have been waiting, so I do want to take a vote on it tonight. But I, again, want to stress that there was no posted deadline to this application.
Excuse me, just kind of, Dana, would you speak to that? I know there, in the past, we've had discussion about posting the deadline on the website, so it's very clear. What's your perspective on this?
So this was 3 postings. The first 2 postings had deadline. We didn't have applicants, so I was told to put it back out there without a deadline until we could, so we could still get people, applicants who were interested in applying. So the first 2 did have deadlines, and when those deadlines happened, we didn't have enough applicants. So then it was placed back without a deadline, to hopefully get more applicants in.
Okay, so this last time you were directed to post them without a deadline?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Just to be clear, I did not have any direction to post without
No,
a
I'm
deadline.
not- I
I
just
said
wanna
to
know.
post it
Yeah.
again.
So there's no deadline.
I believe everybody, I'm just trying to be clear.
All I'm saying is, the reason I brought that up, I am fine to vote tonight. I just wanted to make sure that those who did submit applications were given the opportunity to be here. They've either chosen not to be, or they are here. So I'm fine with that. I just wanted to make sure, as a point of clarification, what was shared with them. So, again, I know this has been open for a long time. We need to get these appointments made. I did not want to
we
split
have
hairs
enough
with that.
applicants here to fill the spots.
Okay.
So,
Totally fine with that.
and the process has always been sort of a pecking order. You apply for a board, if you don't get one, you keep applying and you get moved up the list because you got bumped the last time. Quincy wanted to be on the planning commission before. Someone that had already applied ahead of him got the position. He was kind enough to go on the ZBA for the last 2.5 years and help us out. Now he wants to move up to planning. So I think it is generally an inherent process that works, and I don't think that not allowing residents an opportunity. We have been discussing this. I spoke to the entire village at our last meeting saying, hey, we need applicants. And we're still with the last one that came in
On the 5th.
on the 5th, one person above the total, well, two people above the total. And it seems like even if Danielle didn't have an opportunity today, it seemed like if she still wanted to be involved, she would go to the top of the list the next time we
What
go
about
to do
Brian?
this.
Was Brian called? No.
No one was, because,
No one was
okay, let me, I'm gonna say my 2 cents, which is, I just want to establish for the record, again, that I'm totally in the corner of the village staff, because the first 2 times we applied the deadline. However, for the exact same reason that I support we vote tonight, I do not wanna go another month of not having these seats filled for the zoning board and the planning commission. And so it makes complete sense to remove that deadline so that if we didn't have the numbers and somebody applied at the last minute, that we could still get the consideration to move this forward without having to wait an additional month. I would say though, that because we did not notify, because we didn't know that we were taking an official vote tonight, that we not discredit somebody for not being in attendance tonight. That's the only thing that I would say.
Agreed.
I like that.
Agreed.
Does anyone move to, are we at the point of?
How do you want to do this?
Well,
David?
so the way the charter reads is the president appoints planning commissioners and the council ratifies them. And then for any other body, it's the council approves, which means theoretically anybody can make a motion for somebody. On any of these instances, if we have more nominees than there are positions, then we have to go into a voting process. I would suggest we start with the planning commission to get those out of the way, which will then potentially gonna create
Another
other openings. So I just want to again state 2 things. Of our applicants, of the 7 applicants, 5 are seeking to be volunteers for the first time in the village. 2 of them are existing volunteers. One is a volunteer that's on the ZBA that would like to elevate to the planning commission, which is sort of one of the natural progresses. And the other is somebody who has been putting in his time as an alternate on the ZBA, which is now asking, and probably became an alternate because there wasn't an appointment for a ZBA person at that time, so they took an alternate position until a ZBA spot opened up. So, having said that, I would like to start with the planning commission nominations, and the first person I want to nominate is Quincy Harrison. Quincy had asked to be on the planning commission initially, but even more so than that, as I spoke wind about when we were adding Dan to council, and when we lost Dan, and had previously, when I was on council, I liked the idea of a technical attorney that is familiar with and spends their professional days. And if you look at the definition of who should be on the planning commission, it's supposed to cover all the spectrums of our society. Getting an attorney that has a technical background to do a lot of the things that I did when I was there and what Dan was doing until he left. That David is, what we debated when we appointed Dan, this to me fills a huge void that we're missing. So my first recommendation from the planning commission would be Quincy Harrison.
Do you want a motion?
But it's not a motion, it's I'm making
Oh,
that
you're
appointment.
making
Now,
an
you guys
appointment.
we now need to vote, so
Yep.
we can have further discussion on the matter. If anybody wants to discuss, or anybody has further questions for Quincy. If not,
I served with Quincy on the zoning board for a couple of years, and I thought his questions were very thoughtful, and the points that he raised and the preparation that he did before he came to the meetings was exquisite, and oftentimes he was explaining things to other zoning board members who couldn't quite grasp what was being presented. And I think that he's a good collaborator and consensus builder, and I think he would be an excellent addition to planning, and he's really dedicated a lot of time to the village, so he wholeheartedly has my support.
Further discussion? All right, all those in favor of moving Quincy Harrison to the planning commission, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, Quincy, awesome, congratulations. I know you've been wanting to move on, so we're awesome, glad to have you on the planning commission. Okay, so now we need to have another applicant for the planning commission. We really have, of our applicants, two have asked to be on the planning commission. One is Jeremy Warner, who is here today. The other is Danielle, who's not here today. I mean, I feel bad because I missed that we got an email about Danielle. I was out of town last week, so I did not see that come in, so I did not get an opportunity to speak with her. I don't know if anyone else had an opportunity to speak with her. So I'm not super comfortable appointing someone I've never had a chance to meet. So kind of not having, I'm gonna, my second appointment would be Jeremy Warner to the planning commission. Jeremy's been a resident for 4 years now. I know Jeremy, based on what he told us, grew up in the area. So Jeremy brings a great perspective from our younger strata of the community, and I'm gonna recommend Jeremy Warner to the planning commission. Any discussions?
How many spots are on planning open?
There were two.
Just two,
So this,
okay.
Quincy filled one, and this would be the
Yeah.
last.
But now we have 2 openings on the ZBA.
Yeah, okay. I mean, Jeremy's speech was great. I can speak to Danielle just because I did review her application. I did like the architecture and professional fine arts education that her application carried, because I think that's important in planning, like the aesthetic, a community planner, there's like a lot of, to like John Simon's point, like aesthetics and beauty is something that villagers hold very near and dear to their hearts. And having that like education and experience mixed with the business savviness of being a business owner was something that I think probably attracted her to the planning. But given that she's not here tonight, I support your nomination of Jeremy.
Any other discussion? Questions for Jeremy? All right, we'll take a vote. All in favor of adding Jeremy Warner to the planning commission, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, Jeremy, congratulations. We look forward to your input.
Stuart wanted to make comments.
Stuart?
He had a good 45.
Next week.
Did you have a question? Did you want to say something? No, okay. Yeah. You wanted 2 planning commissioners.
I got what I wanted.
You got 2 planning commissioners.
Stop while you're ahead.
All right, so we have, including Danielle, we have 5 people left for the 2 seats. At this stage, I don't make recommendations. It is, it would be recommendations, nominations by any of you. If you want to nominate someone to the ZBA, that would require a second, and then we would take action. If we get 2 people, then that's where we stop. Again, the only comment that I would like to add is the consideration of the fact that Brian Rickoff, who, although he's not here today, is an existing ZBA member, who, I guess if we moved him up to the ZBA, we would have 1 ZBA seat open and 1 alternate seat open. But I will leave it to the balance of the council if you guys want to take any action at this point, or no.
For those reasons, I'd like to nominate Brian.
To the ZBA?
Yes.
And I'd like to second that. I really like the idea of moving alternates who have put in the time into the regular spot if they want that.
I agree.
I concur on that as well. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor of appointing Brian Rickoff to the Zoning Board of Appeals? All
Aye.
in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, Brian, if you're out there, thank you for your time, and We look forward to you sitting on the board in totality. So at this stage, we still need one more nomination for somebody to sit on the ZBA in a full capacity, and then, obviously.
I'll move to nominate.
Randy's not here. One second, I'm sorry. Do you know how many alternates there are right now?
2.
Oh, so we'll,
But
Connie's
we-
still an alternate, and then Brian would be replaced. Okay, so we're good. We don't need, okay. I'm sorry, Angelina.
No, I just moved to nominate Michelle for the other.
Michelle Sumerian for the
Yeah.
ZBA position?
Yeah.
Second that.
Any further discussion?
I don't, we met Michelle.
You met Michelle?
Yeah, okay, thank you.
I had a chance to speak to her.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Any further discussion? All right, all in favor of appointing Michelle Sumerian to the zoning board of appeals, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Michelle, congratulations. Thank you. So we have 3 applicants for the zoning board of appeals alternate. John Simon, Danielle, sorry, I didn't get her last name.
Carmel.
Oh, Carmel.
Well,
Danielle?
she, in her application says commission, so I don't know
Okay.
if she's applying for CBA.
Okay, so then, between Mr. Simon and Ms. Carlo, we need a motion for somebody to serve as an alternate on the zoning board of appeals.
I'll move to nominate John Simon.
Need a second?
I can second that.
Okay, further discussion? All right, all in favor of appointing John Simon as zoning board of appeals alternate?
Might have to do a roll call.
All in favor, you want to do a roll call?
I don't know.
Oh, no, all in favor, say aye.
Oh.
Aye. Opposed? All right, so you could fill the seats. To Danielle, I apologized and do feel bad. And I would just say that seats on Historic District, Zoning Board, Planning Commission open on a regular basis, and the next time there is an opening, and I would hope that she would again consider it, and at least as far as I'm concerned, she'll go to the top of the list. All right, excellent job filling those seats. I think we've got some great candidates. Add some new blood to those bodies. Anybody else have anything? All right, I'll adjourn the meeting at 8:55.
If you'd like to pick a booklet as you walk out the door, it's sitting right on the
On the counter.